I want to know really who are the 17%? Who are they? Who the hell are the 17%? Anybody in here from the 17%? Don't raise your hand, it may be dangerous. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So I think I might have been in Washington 17 times in my life. 17, 17, and 17, 17, 17, 17. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. I spoke to him 17 minutes ago. I hung up the phone as you're coming in. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17. So you had 17 Republicans plus me. 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, 17, planning it for 17 years.
The grid. A digital frontier. I tried to picture clusters of information as they move through the computer. What did they look like? Ships, motorcycles? Were the circuits like freeways? I kept dreaming of a world I thought I'd never see. And then, one day, I got in.
Good evening, friends, and welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 7. Excuse me. Sorry about that. frog. I got a frog in my throat. I got a frog in my throat. Excuse me. Welcome to episode 7. Ruth, Pepe on the block. It's a Truther Media production. This is a place where noise fades and where spin dies. And this is where we actually allow the truth to start breathing again. So I'm Digital Soldier. My friends call me Digi.
And I'm Sky Girl, and my friends call me Sky. And if you're here tonight, you didn't just stumble in. You know, we don't think you just find this episode. I believe you were led here. And why? Because this chapter hits real differently.
It really does. And together, we're actually here to bring you the most grounded, faith-forward, Bitcoin-based, literate conversation happening anywhere online today. This isn't fast food content. It's not Burger King where you get it your way. This is just slow truth, and that's what we do here. So welcome to episode 7, Pepe on the block. But friends, before we get too far ahead of ourselves, just some quick housekeeping before we get all settled in tonight. I just want to make mention that we are currently live right now on Rumble, X, YouTube, and Substack. So wherever you're watching us from, drop a like. Maybe a froggy or a 17, say hello in the chat just to kind of let you know that we're here. Because every little bit counts, and that's what really helps, get more butts and seats. So if you can do that for us. I already see that we've got quite a few of you already popping off in the chat. So welcome all of you. Damon, I see you, brother. Good to see you. Let's see who else we got here. Patrick, good to see you, brother. Andrea.
Yep.
Nice
Courteous.
To see you. Courteous.
Josh.
Justice Cometh is with us. How you doing, buddy?
Spammy.
Yeet, brother Yeet. How are you, my man? Good to see you. There's my girl, Spammy. Spammy, how you doing? Good to see you. Real AF is here. Good to see you, brother. All right. Do what?
I said it at the same time as you.
Oh, yeah. Let's see who else we got. Kilburn, good to see you.
Yep.
Joe DiBiase, how are you, my man? Good to see you, brother. Let's see. I want to make sure we get everybody. Have fun staying poor. I love it. That's so true. I mean, everybody gets Bitcoin at the price they deserve. That's what I always say.
And now it's at a good price.
Yeah, I mean, that's a common catchphrase for us Bitcoiners. Have fun staying poor. Mama Fox, how are you? Allison, I see you. How are you, Allison?
Yeah.
Good to see you. AAGP in the house. Let's see, 39 27 365. How are you? It's so good to see you. Tammy for real, I see you. Good to see you. Escape the Matrix.
Mama.
Yeah, so I mean, we got quite a crowd going off tonight. So welcome everybody. Welcome.
Yeah.
Like I was saying, just anything, in the way of giving us a thumbs up or a share, a repost, a comment, whether you're on X, Rumble, YouTube, what have you. It just really helps kind of spread the love around. And now, before we go anywhere tonight, I kind of want to pause and take a look back because this episode didn't really come out of nowhere, right? Last episode was judges, and we talked about what happens when systems collapse, where leadership fails.
Yep.
And everyone starts doing what they think is right in their own eyes. And that just kind of brings us here tonight, because after collapse comes something very unexpected, right? So that's what brings us to Ruth.
Yeah, no, tonight's not loud, right? It's not explosive, and it's not about power or conquest.
No,
right?
No. I mean, it's not, because what tonight is actually really about, if I think about it, it's kind of like where it holds everything together, while it breaks. It's about what survives when institutions start wobbling, right? What builds quietly while others are in pure panic mode.
Right. Yeah.
So this episode, it's not here to shout at you. It's here to reveal something. So I really want to make sure that y'all understand that. But before we go any further, I want to talk about our special guest that we have coming on this evening, and we are so excited to be having this conversation. You want to tell him, or you want me to tell him?
Well, I mean, you can let me talk.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of stealing.
Yeah,
I mean,
like,
go ahead.
Because joining us tonight is somebody who has lived inside our modern finance systems of finance and business and global markets, and brings a very grounded and real-world perspective to everything that we want to talk about tonight. So we are so honored to welcome KC Coyle. KC has spent decades working inside global finance, including foreign exchange at a Fortune 100 bank, helping businesses build sustainable operations and long-term legacies.
Yeah, and what's really interesting about KC is today she's actually a crypto educator.
Yep.
She's helping everyday people, especially women,
yep,
understand money and markets and sovereignty with clarity and confidence. But more than the titles that KC brings, she brings wisdom shaped by family and faith and really some long-term thinking. So without further ado,
bring her on.
I want to go ahead and welcome KC to the stage. KC, how are you? Welcome to Pepe on the Block. We are so glad to have you here with us tonight. How are you?
I am great. How are you?
We're doing very well. It's good to see you, and we've been kind of talking a little bit this past week. And actually, we've been talking for a couple of weeks about when we were going to do this, and it just finally worked out that the timing was right, and it couldn't have been more perfect for you to actually be included on this episode as we unpack and go through RUTH, because there's a lot of parallels, I think, that we're seeing. What are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree. I'm really excited to be here for RUTH. The parallels are crazy.
They are. And
I mean, if I hadn't kind of gone in and reread RUTH and tried to line it all up myself, I wouldn't have believed that there could be this many overlaps.
I know.
It's we've been saying it actually the last couple of weeks. We never in a million years thought, number one, we would be doing a podcast. No. Number two, to be able to do a Bitcoin show where to kick things off, we just thought, what better way to get started than to have an episode called Genesis, because Bitcoin, with the Genesis block, Genesis means beginnings, the start, whatever. So it was very intentional, to call that episode Genesis. And the next episode is like, what are we going to do, for the next one? And I'm like, well, let's talk about leaving the system, and it's like, Exodus, right?
Yeah. Well, and I had just finished a series of articles on that, right?
It was crazy. So from there, Numbers, and then Deuteronomy, and then Joshua, and then Judges, and now here RUTH. And we never thought that we would be basically building a Bitcoin show centered around the Bible. Yeah. But the parallels between then and now, and certainly with the financial system, they line up surprisingly, interestingly well, I think. So
it's going to be great to hear your perspective as we go through, because of your experience and your background. I'm really excited to hear.
Absolutely.
I'm excited to have the conversation. It's great. I love it when I get to talk to people about this, especially, like the two of you who are so grounded in faith. And I absolutely love how you've lined this up with the Bible books so far.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been doing the crypto thing for a while, and you guys completely changed my mind. So I'm really excited about tonight.
Wow.
Wow. Well, now that is a compliment.
Well, and we started in cryptos. And it led us into Bitcoin. So it's just been an interesting journey.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I mean, to kind of unpack that a little bit more, when she says, we started in crypto, for us, I'd like to hear your story in a second, and we're going to get to that because I got something for you. But for us, we had kept hearing about Bitcoin, the whole time, and certainly, being a Q guy, very early on. I drank the Kool-Aid about all the bad stuff about Bitcoin and all the stuff, as a Q-tard, right? So I didn't want to have anything to do with it. I wanted nothing to do with it because of the things that I was hearing. But once I started, doing some homework and my own research and actually starting to understand a little bit more about what it was, then it actually became not necessarily that I wasn't interested in Bitcoin. It became, well, that ship has sailed. It's too expensive. I can't afford Bitcoin. There's no, we don't have, X number of dollars just laying around just to go out and buy Bitcoin. So we're going to get this coin called the Doge coin, because it was like,
going to the moon.
Yeah, it's going to the moon, Doge to the moon, because, we were buying it like early on, it was like a penny or two, Dogecoin was like, basically it just come out.
And it was fun.
It was. Fun. And then we migrated over to Shiba Inu. I don't know if you know that one.
I do. I still have some of it.
Okay. Yeah. We were so excited because I was like, baby, do you understand that I own 250 million Shiba Inu? It was. And then we had Pepe. I felt like a multi-millionaire, even though it wasn't worth that much, but it did blow up, right? We did buy Pepe. We bought
that one.
That one blew up. We bought Ethereum. So we started buying all these things, right? Because we really believed that the ship had sailed when it came to Bitcoin. But then we started learning about you don't have to buy a whole Bitcoin.
You just need a little.
You just got to start somewhere. You got to start stacking sats, right?
Exactly.
And we decided it was time, because we blew up, but then the crypto market really took a hit. And it was kind of like, well, let's just get out while we can. So we pulled everything out and just flipped everything 100% right into Bitcoin, and we've never looked back. That was the moment that we decided. That was the moment we took the orange pill, so to speak, and we decided to become what is commonly referred to as a Bitcoin maxi, and that is absolutely what we are. And we've lived that lifestyle now. I want to say 4, maybe 5 years. We don't even operate in their system anymore. Everything we do is, with Bitcoin. So, that's our story. So as I say that, KC, you're not exempt here, okay? Because everyone who sits at the table has to go through it. Everybody does. It's kind of like a rite of passage.
Yeah. Then you're in the club.
Where, we like to start simple. And we call it our red pill, orange pill. And I'm sure you've heard of it.
We're gonna be legends, gonna get their attention. What we're doing here ain't just scary, it's about to be legendary.
All right, KC. When did you first take the red pill? What was do what?
Let's see. When did I first take the red pill? Yeah. I feel like I've taken multiple doses of red pill.
I think we all have.
The years.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, kind of like an unlimited supply.
I feel like I've been awake like most of my life. I really do. I think that, but I always kind of saw things from a different perspective. From everywhere that I worked, I never had the same perspective or point of view as the people that I worked with. Even in my own family, I grew up in Delaware, which is a really liberal state. And I just always saw things differently. So I feel like I was always red-pilled, but I didn't know Q. That was about a year and a half ago that I found Q. And that woke me up even more. And that was actually our friend Josh is the reason that I found Q and woke up.
Well, Josh is pretty good at that.
He is.
I mean, he does an unbelievable job of really bringing it down to a simple understanding for everyone to follow along and kind of start putting the pieces together.
Job.
So yeah, we're very thankful for his gift and what he does. Now, just out of curiosity, with that being said, you'd mentioned Delaware.
Yeah.
that's interesting because there's someone else from Delaware.
There is.
You want to talk about that?
I'd be happy to talk about that. So I
Okay.
say that I've always been awake, and this is going to sound like I was not. I did have a little bit of a liberal side, but when I was younger, but I usually saw things for what they were. So Jill Biden was my high school English teacher. And
Really?
and when I graduated from college, I went to work. My first job was as a paid intern at the Foreign Relations Committee in DC for the Senate. And Joe Biden at that time was the committee chair for the Foreign Relations Committee. So I worked with Joe every day. And I also do have, I think we all have those people in our family that are probably, just never going to be red pilled. But I do have an aunt who was Joe Biden's office manager for his Senate office in Delaware for 30 years until she passed away. So I have seen a lot especially inside of Delaware politics. I was always very involved in politics from being really young, actually, volunteering on things. But I can say one thing: I've never voted for Joe Biden.
Oh, thank God. Well, that's so good to hear. So obviously working in close proximity with him, and obviously working inside the Senate.
Mm-hmm.
You know this stuff inside and out, obviously pretty well in terms of just everyday people, obviously.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, I wanted you to kind of touch on that a little bit because I think it's only fair that the audience knows who KC is and what she brings to the table, because that's why I was so excited to get you on here tonight, because your background and your area of expertise, I was like, whoa, we need you on Pepe on the Block. So we couldn't be more excited. Now, just, going back to what we had discussed, when did the orange pill happen? You had mentioned you kind of touched on it, I think, a little bit ago, where you've always been into crypto, but something has happened, I guess, over the last couple of weeks as you've been watching Pepe on the Block in terms of perhaps an orange pill.
Absolutely. So yeah, I haven't always been into crypto. I've been in it for a while. Actually, my boys, I have 3 kids, 2 of them are boys, and they got me into it. But I did work at a Fortune 100 bank in foreign exchange. That was my first real career before I had kids. Worked there for a while. So I knew about investing because I had worked with corporate, private, and global clients. Just doing back office support for Wall Street. So I got to see the inside, how things work, behind the scenes from Wall Street. And I stayed away from Bitcoin because I didn't understand it. And I didn't care to understand it for a really long time. I was happy with, stock investing and other types of investments, business investing. And so, about maybe 2 years ago, after the last bull run in 2021. So I didn't get in before then, but it's been maybe a little over 2 years. I started investing because my boys got me into it, and they're like, "Hey, you need to buy XRP. It's going to the moon. Like, we're gonna all be rich, And so that's where I started, and I wasn't really into all the meme coins. I did start to buy some of those. I bought one that's just ridiculous, and I did make some money on it. But it wasn't even something I was.
Was it the fart coin?
Nope, I bought Toshi, and it was because I loved the community. But I don't like I mean, I love animals, but I don't really like cats. I love all animals, but I'm a dog person, not a cat person. So I was like, why am I buying this blue cat? Like, I don't even love cats. This is going to be a community of cat people. And so
there's a lot of that with the meme coins, though. I mean, there's crazy stuff on those meme coins.
There is, and it just had such a good narrative behind it. I mean, no, you know. Yeah. At the time when I got into it, it didn't have any utility, but then I saw the community, you know, they started to add utility. They started to add a lot of things. Then they became the face of base. So I was excited about that. But I just had this allergy to Bitcoin. I had a little bit, but not much. And I was really all in on XRP. And then I started like researching, because I'm a deep researcher. I'm such a nerd that way. I love to read and research, and it's what I do to relax and have fun. So I started researching Bitcoin, and I did start buying a little here and there, and I started seeing, especially because I had discovered Q, how Bitcoin was really created to be a weapon. I mean, it says it right in the white paper. And of course, because I'm a nerd, I went and read the white paper, and it talks about it being a weapon, right? But what changed is I still had this resistance to Bitcoin. It was really like an allergy, because I had been so dialed into the XRP narrative, right? And you'd think that the two of them would be allergic to each other if you talk to a lot of people in both of those communities. And then I started watching Pepe on the Block, and I was like, like my mind was blown. I was like, holy cow, I cannot believe that this is like kind of, it just connected all the dots. I'm like, this is what I've been thinking, the weapon piece of it, but I didn't really understand how that connected, especially to faith and like biblically.
Right.
And so that was the big eye opener for me.
Well, that's what is so amazing once you really start understanding what Bitcoin is. You can see the divinity layered in it. You can see how divine Bitcoin is once you truly understand it. But you know, you touched on something that I think is so important, and that's the one thing that, you know, we're kind of working our way up there just to kind of let the audience know ahead of time. We're not there yet because we're still kind of learning about Bitcoin, but everyone still sees it as a currency. And I get that because it's priced in dollars. You know, I understand that. But we're wanting to get to the education level for everybody, you know, in attendance, to where people stop looking at it as a currency and understand that it's actually a weapon. And that is the part that I think is the most unbelievable aspect about Bitcoin. I mean, we have a Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms. And once you understand Bitcoin over, you know, you talked about XRP, you talked about, you know, we've talked about cryptos, whatever. Once you understand what it is versus all of the others, it's not, you know, we talk about, you know, comparing apples and oranges. That's not even close. We're not even in the same universe in terms of cryptos versus Bitcoin because of what Bitcoin actually is. And, you know, getting people to understand that is what I think is going to be the pivotal moment when Bitcoin moves, when Bitcoin does something that is so unbelievably astronomical in terms of rising. Now, as it stands, you know, like gold and silver, Bitcoin's an absolute free fall right now. And I've got people blowing up my phone. They think they're so cute and they're so funny. And they're like, Bitcoin's going down. And, you know, and I'm replying going, it's on sale, you know.
It is on sale.
Yeah. I mean,
absolutely.
You get more for your money now.
You know, it's like a Black Friday sale.
I mean, it's so resilient. It's so resilient.
Well, here's the deal. I have Bitcoin so that I can have freedom. if it's down, I'm going to buy more
freedom.
Bitcoin so I can have more freedom. So it's a simple concept. So, when a lot of people throw shade that it's down, I actually respond with, I hope it goes so much lower. I hope it keeps going. I want to buy more. I want to buy more, because I can accumulate twice the amount of Bitcoin at $10,000 versus if it's at $100,000.
Exactly.
So really, it behooves me, it behooves you, it behooves all of us. The lower it goes, because it makes it cheaper and more affordable to buy. It's going to go back up. I'm not worried about that. So I just think it's really interesting that we're in this moment right now, because now is the time for everybody to take advantage of it in what we call buy the dip. Right? This is what it looks like.
Don't skip the dip.
Don't skip the dip.
Exactly. And it's such a great time for people to enter if they haven't been in this space, if they don't have crypto. It is such a good entry point. I mean, because there were people that were jumping in when it was 123,000.
That's what we were talking about
a few
earlier
months
today.
ago. And and this opportunity doesn't come around as often. I mean, we've got longer cycles before we have these kind of pullbacks. I think that percentage wise, it's been, I mean, you might know this. I'm not sure if either of you know this, but I think it's been over 2 years since we've had this much of a percentage.
We have. Yeah,
drawback.
it's you're at 100% right. We have not seen this kind of pullback in a long time. And that's why I'm so excited, because we haven't been able to afford as much Bitcoin over the last 2 years. Now it's a lot more affordable.
The longer it stays down,
I'm doing cartwheels right now, and I just hope it keeps going down. So everybody that gets upset.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, everybody that's getting upset about it, it's because they don't understand it. They're treating it like a stock. It's not a stock. It's a long-term investment strategy.
Well, the whole market is pulling back right now. So
it is.
This has nothing to do with the validity or the the value of Bitcoin. This has to do with so many other factors that are going on, and the entire market is pulling back. Crypto tends to pull back further faster when we have any type of events like we're having this week, but it also goes up farther and faster when it turns around.
It really does.
Yeah.
So I want to pause with what we're doing here real quick, because we really opened up a lot of stuff. I'm so excited. But
I know.
I want to back up just a little bit. And I really, before we get started with everything, I want to go ahead and bow our heads in prayer and just have an opening prayer. So if you'll bow your heads with us.
Heavenly Father, tonight we ask for steadiness, not speed, not spectacle, your steadiness, your faithfulness. This world is so loud, and the pressure is ever constant, and the temptation to rush in headlong, but you move with patience, with intention. So quiet our hearts, slow our thoughts, and help us see what actually lasts.
Lord, we ask for wisdom in a time of uncertainty. We ask that you would teach us how to work when no one is watching, how to remain loyal when we'd rather leave, how to build without bitterness and endure without losing hope. Father, we pray that you would guard us from shortcuts, from panic, and from fear disguised as urgency. Father, we don't want to chase the crowd. We want to walk in truth. Father, strengthen families, anchor households, protect the vulnerable, remind us that legacy is formed quietly and faithfully, one step at a time. And as we open this conversation tonight, let your truth speak louder than the noise. Let your order stand firmer than collapsing systems. And let your peace guide us forward. Be our foundation, our provision, and our future. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. So real quickly, in terms of tonight and how things are going to work, we're going to walk through the book of Ruth together, plainly and honestly. We're going to lay it next to what we're actually living through right now, whether it be money or systems, incentives, truth that doesn't actually rot. And KC, that's where you're going to come in, because you're going to fit right in here with us, not as not as someone that's just sitting there, but as an active participant, because we want you to be as much a part of this discussion from the very start. Whether it's Bitcoin or crypto, that we've already touched on. We're going to look at gold and silver, the Fed, global instability. So we got a lot of things to discuss in terms of having a real conversation here. So friends, do yourselves a favor if you haven't already. Grab your notebook, pour that cup of coffee, and go ahead and get settled in, because tonight we're going to have a conversation that is going to unpack a lot of different things. And this is going to be something that you're going to want to take note of. So everybody, it's time for coffee talk.
Here, coffee.
So clearly Laurel. Started worldwide exchange. Kofif, I think.
Sounds Brazilian. It sounds Portuguese. A few minutes after midnight, the president tweeted, despite the constant negative press, Kofif.
Kafefi, we're going to let you make the call this morning.
Schmidt knows everything. Schmidt,
Yeah.
what does convey mean?
What the heck?
Actually, it was like a Spanish soft drink company.
The president tweeted the word covfefe. We still don't know what it means, why the president tweeted it. That's why I've introduced the Covfefe Act, communications over various feeds electronically for engagement. It is a silly name, but it's a serious issue.
I hear coffee.
Kafefe is a long story, and I'll go back to what Sean Spicer said. Those that needed to know about
That's
what
it.
it was, that's what it
That's
was.
it.
That one's for you, Sean. That one's
there
for
you
you out there, Spicer. Those that need to know. But the Kafefe one is probably one of the all-time greats.
Yes.
One of these days I'll be able to tell or share that story.
Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up. Don't you know, pump it up. You got to pump it up.
All right.
All right, I was dancing backstage. So let's talk Ruth. So before anyone overthinks this, it's not a fairy tale, and we're not going to do it from a romance novel aspect. It's a survival story. So Ruth opens in the aftermath of Judges, which, there was a lot of famine and loss and instability, no safety nets, no institutions to lean on, and no guarantee. So she is by herself trying to recover after having lost everything.
And KC, what I want to do is I want to pull you into this right away here, because Ruth is a foreigner. She's a widow. And I'm not saying that you are. I'm not drawing. Real quick.
My husband wouldn't be happy about that.
Hold on a second. Hold on. Let me clean that up real quick. When I said I wanted to pull you in, I meant I want to pull you into the conversation, not that you're Ruth.
Not that would be bad, but that's anyway.
But from your perspective, when systems start wobbling, right? Who actually feels it first?
I mean, the people that have to go out and work every single day for everything that they have, right?
Right.
I mean, you're right. I mean, that's the whole point. Because in the book of Ruth, she doesn't panic.
No, she has to go out every day, right? And she has to pick up from the field whatever's left over. So, she's not kicking at the system, and she's not demanding entitlement. She's actually very humble and making a decision to go out. And so, like, KC, you having lived inside a system, inside, years of global finance, of big banks and big money, and the whole machine, tell us honestly, when did you first realize that it might work a little bit differently than what we thought it does?
It's a good question. I think as soon as I started working in that environment, I realized that it didn't work how I expected it to. So, I mean, within weeks of starting to work there, and then I got married, I started having kids, and I was like, I can't go back. I'm not going back. Once I had kids, once I had my son, I was like, I'm not going back into that system. It was just so, it was so demanding. It was like you were, I don't know, it was just a bunch of sheep, right? A bunch of sheep working there. And I remember being, I had to work on Y2K. And I had to work, and I ended up working like 23 hours straight with no overtime. And it was, every day was like 10, 12 hours. We had to make sure every market was covered. We had to make sure that everything was done and settled before we left, like we were settling large financial transactions. So we couldn't leave. And I was like, I don't know how people have a family and do this. So, I mean, really, that was my wake up call. I knew immediately that there was no way I was going to be able to go back into that world once I had kids.
Yeah. You would have been sacrificing.
I mean, this is a good opportunity for everyone in the chat to weigh in on this. So for everyone in the chat, let me pose this question to y'all. When was the first time when you were like, wait a minute, something's off here, right? When did you start noticing these things about the system? Just tell us in the chat. Because we want to make sure that everyone watching here is included in all this, because we're all going through this. KC, what you just laid out is not unique. By any stretch of the imagination, we all experience that.
Quality of life. I mean, quality of life diminished, not having good work-life balance because it's such a very demanding system.
It is. And with that being said, I want to show this clip here real quick about what that system is. Take a look.
Let me tell you why you're here. You're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. It is this feeling that has brought you to me. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Matrix.
Do you want to know what it is? The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth.
What truth?
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind. Unfortunately, no one can be told what the Matrix is. You have to see it for yourself. This is your last chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland, and I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
Whoops. That might not. That last part there might not have been safe for work, but you know, it definitely tells the story in terms of the system. I mean, we're born into bondage. We're born into slavery.
We don't know it.
I mean, our world is a matrix. I mean, you know, that's why I like the background. You know, that's why we have this whole motif, because it really, really is. What did you think, KC?
I thought it was great.
Maybe not the F-bombs at the end.
Maybe not.
Well, apologies for that one. I probably should have gave the caution before we aired that. But anyway, let's talk about Ruth. You know, so Ruth, she chooses loyalty, and she chooses to work. And she's actually choosing a future that she actually can't even see just yet. She's not living a glamorous life, right? What are your thoughts, KC, in terms of how rare a mindset like that would be in modern times in the current economy?
I mean, I think that I think it is really rare. People, you know, have much shorter term thinking now. They're really stuck in today rather than going and, Ruth didn't just go out and glean every single day. She was trying to secure a future, and she did. And she was trying to hold on to an inheritance, and she found a way to do it. But while she was trying to figure out the way, and while she was making her way to the gate, right, where it all went down, she spent her days in the field taking what was left over. She didn't even have a right to go first, and she had to hope that something was there. And she did that so diligently every single day, but she still had that long-term outlook.
Yep.
John in the chat said Ruth worked hard not knowing what to expect from it.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
Yep.
I mean, that's proof of work.
Yep.
Yep. So yeah, you'd wanted to say something. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I didn't mean to jump in. I just like this comment.
No, what I was going to say was, like, she didn't know where she was headed to or what her reward would be. But ultimately, she was in the lineage of Jesus. So, I mean, she didn't see that reward on this side, of life, but that gleaning paid off. But another thing, people don't, what they need to realize is, like, she wasn't rewarded immediately, like in that long-term sense, but even like immediately as she was gleaning. So, like, grain by grain and day after day, like, she keeps on going faithfully. And I don't think a lot of people have the endurance to be able to do that. And I think a lot of that is culture-based, culture-pushed, microwave mindset, fast payoff.
We live in a microwave society. Everybody wants it now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what KC was saying. KC, here's a question. What do you think is again, kind of leaning on your background a little bit. What do you think is the single biggest lie that everyday people are told about money?
Oh, wow. There's so many of them. I don't think anybody knows even close to part of the truth about money, right? But
it's a big target. So, I mean, you're
money isn't where you're going to find value in your life.
Right.
If you don't know Jesus Christ and you don't know God, then money is going to mean nothing in the end. And you're not going to hold on to it for very long. People that are looking for their value by earning money and earning more and more and more, it's just stuff. You can't take any of the stuff with you. And they're collecting their treasures now, but they're risking having their treasures in eternity.
Right. So with that said, I want to kind of take another pause, and I want to play another clip real quick, because I want to make sure that everybody truly understands money. Because the way that this guy explains it and breaks it down is phenomenal, and I've never seen it explained so eloquently well,
and
right off the cuff. So let's take a look.
So what is money? Money is a technological advancement of commerce. 4,000 years ago, you owned a beautiful plot of land with great, beautiful olive trees, and I owned 50, maybe 70 cows. And I saw that plot of land. I said, you know what? I want that plot of land. You already have cows, actually, so you don't need the cows that I have, so we can't actually transact. So I have to go sell my cows for some pigeons because you want the pigeons. Now I come back, I bring you the pigeons. One of them dies, so I have to go back and get another pigeon. And then finally I get the plot of land. Now you have the pigeons, and you have to go figure out somebody that wants pigeons in exchange for you to get the next service or the next good. So the problem was with the bartering system, there was no ability to scale, no ability to build monopolies, because there was no ability to sustain wealth, and there's no medium of exchange that we both agreed upon. We introduced the next form of bartering, the next form of commerce, coinage. Coinage is a technological revolution. It was the first time that we all agreed upon what was something and what was the store of value. So successful merchants, kings, they began to hoard it, and they began to build treasuries, and now they began to conquer more lands because they no longer were limited by the limitations of bartering. You could take the coins, they wouldn't rot. You would sell the gold in China, you would sell the gold in India, you would sell the gold in Paris, and it would still be counted as gold. So now you had the ability for scale. The issue was, now king started realizing, hey, maybe I can shave a little bit off the top of the coin and make some new coins. And you know what? Maybe the people won't notice that I'm printing coins out of thin air. Maybe I'll add some alloy or some metal instead of the silver, diluting the currency. So they began to realize, hey, like, coinage now can be forged. So we need another system. Now people can no longer have their own system. We need to have something centralized. Everybody's managing on gold. The banks are holding gold. Let's get rid of the gold standard. Let's introduce paper money. Paper money, obviously, if you have, let's say, a kilo worth of gold, you can't be carrying that with your horse hanging around town. No, you have paper receipts that the bank gives you. And people began exchanging paper receipts. The receipts of what? The units of gold that were in the bank. But then the banks got cheeky and they said, you know what? Nobody's checking our bank reserves. So what if we issue more paper than we actually have gold reserves? And the French noticed. They're like, hey, these motherfucking Americans, they're printing more paper, handing it out to people than the gold that they have in the reserves. So they came in and they wiped out all the reserves, collapsing the economy. So what did they have to do? They had to introduce the gold standard. Getting rid of the gold standard. Why? Well, now we just can print as much money as we want and it's not pegged by gold. And now we were introduced with paper. And then credit cards rolled around. Yeah, I still had to go into the bank and deal with paper, but I could transact and buy things with a piece of plastic. Okay, so now digital money was introduced. But now we have the battle of what is the digital money that we want to adopt. And in these new crossroads of technological advancement, you have something that's born known as Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the permissionless open ledger. Everybody knows how much of it exists, who owns what based off of, obviously you don't know who owns what wallet, but you know what wallet owns how much. Everything is open, everything is transparent, and everything is what? Peer-to-peer. It's the purest form of going back 2,000 years and transacting gold bar for gold bar in a digital format. It is the evolution of money. It is the natural evolution of money. Now you have the old system, the banking cartel, that takes a fee off of us transacting. So what is the rule or what is the need of a bank today? What is the purpose of a bank? Well, Luke, the purpose of the bank is to store your deposits. No, a bank does not hold deposits. If they hold deposits, why do they give you interest on your deposit? It's not a deposit. The moment they give you an interest on it, it's a loan. You're loaning them money, they're giving you an interest, they're taking that money, they're investing it. It's not a deposit, it's a loan. Once they give you interest, that thing becomes a liability on their balance. What you're seeing displayed on your checking account is just a record of how much the bank owes you. So the purpose of the bank isn't to hold deposits. Well, the purpose of the bank, Luke, is to fractionalize money. Well, no, that's not the purpose of the bank. It doesn't fractionalize money. Well, what's the purpose of the bank? The purpose of the bank is credit creation. It creates loans. It's in the business of buying and selling securities. So the bank is in the business of credit creation, and everything around us is getting inflated and more expensive due to the fact that we're creating credit that is being utilized to buy Louis Vuitton bags. It's not productive credit. It's not credit that adds to the GDP. We enter a situation whereby the dilution of our money becomes so big that we no longer trust it. But now we enter a very dangerous situation. If we don't have an alternative payment system, the tokenization or the programmability of digital money, like a central bank digital currency, becomes very scary. Because now they don't want to just issue the currency, they want to control the rules as to how you can use the currency. So for example, hey, Riz, you've already spent, you know what? You spent 2 hours already with the light on. Now your light gets turned off because your curfew's up. And if not, we'll turn off your power bill and your cards won't work. Oh, you didn't get vaccinated? Oh, you went 5 kilometers past your house curfew? No worries, your cards just won't work. You have no freedom. Back in the day, at least you had cash, you could do whatever you wanted. So is that the system that you want? The answer is no. What is the alternative system to that digital revolution, that next advancement of money? In my opinion, is Bitcoin, digital currencies, things that are decentralized. So it's a little bit of how I've been thinking about and theorizing this idea of Bitcoin and rationalizing whether digital currencies, decentralized ones, fighting against centralized institutions are going to last. And I think people will fight for it.
What'd you think about that?
Oh, you're muted. Hold on.
You're muted.
There I go again.
Hey, it's okay. We do it regularly.
Yeah.
We're pros at it, so you're good.
Yeah.
I said it was interesting. It was a good explanation.
I mean, to be so off the cuff with a breakdown, going back 4,000 years and just kind of walking us through history of the revolution or the evolution of money, so to speak. I've never heard it spoken so plainly and so easy to understand. It's like, golly, I mean, that young kid's going places. He's got his hands completely wrapped around it to be able to explain it in that way. So I just wanted to share that with you and with everybody.
Yeah, thank you for sharing.
So without jumping ahead too fast, I'm going to bring it back to Ruth, and what she's been doing really as she's gleaning is not speculation, it's accumulation. And this is why loud systems can't touch quiet actions of truth. So because quiet truth can't be manipulated.
Right. And that's actually where, incorruptible systems begin to matter, because, not systems that reward you for shortcuts, but, but systems that are designed to reward just for actually showing up. And that's kind of where we are when we think about Bitcoin. And Casey, I believe you teach this, especially to women on your show,
I do.
in terms of, where and how to get started. You said yourself that, Bitcoin is starting to click a little bit differently for yourself the more you're starting to learn about it. So, help us to understand that, what is it specifically, because you have a show on YouTube, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's called Ladies of
Crypto. Yes.
Crypto.
It's brand new. It's
not a Bitcoin show, to my understanding.
Nope, it's crypto, blockchain, how money works, investing, but focus really on bringing women into blockchain technology and crypto, because blockchain has so many other applications.
Yes, in healthcare, all kind. Yes, there's so many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, what kind of questions are, I'm assuming your audience, I mean, Ladies of Crypto, it's got to be a predominant, female audience. What are some of the questions that you're hearing or fielding over there in terms of what they're learning from the stuff that, what they don't know or what they're coming along? Because again, you're not really a Bitcoin show, but since you've been watching Pepe on the Block, something's starting to click a little bit differently for you. Does that perhaps maybe change the trajectory of your show going into the future?
Well may. It very well may. Like I said, I'm about 4 weeks in. I just finished my 4th show and have done a couple of interviews with the other broadcasters. And so far, we really, I want to lay the foundation, right? So we talked about, I don't know if you've ever read the book, The Richest Man in Babylon. It's like 100 years old. One of the most important money books I've ever read. And so I translated that for today's investors and today's women. So my first show was all about the richest woman in Babylon and what those timeless money laws still look like today, especially out of that book. So it was really the psychology of our own behavior before we just jump in, right, to start investing in things.
Can you share one of those laws?
Oh, goodness. Sure. Give me just a second here. There's 7 of them. One of them was, one of the ones that I translated was stop spending to cope. A lot of women
been there, done that.
Cope, and that doesn't mean putting themselves last. It means putting their future first.
Nice.
And it means paying themselves first.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's just the psychology of money and these laws that once you get a hold of this, the very first law is put 10% of everything you make aside.
Yeah.
And, for yourself too.
Pay yourself first.
You have to.
It's the pay yourself first rule.
Yeah.
It's a discipline that, I think if you learn to get in the habit of it, to just always take that 10% out first and just put it to the side for yourself and build the rest of your budget completely around the remaining 90%. Well, really, 80% because you got to give the first 10 to God. So let me back up. You give your first 10 to God, then you pay yourself 10%. And what you do is you structure your budget around the remaining 80%. All of your expenses, you don't base it on 100%. You base it on 80%. And you know what I've found? What is so interesting, KC, is a lot of people say, "Yeah, but I can't do that. I can't do that because I don't have enough money to do that or whatever," right? And we actually thought that too. We really, really did, until we just got in the practice of actually doing it. And what we found was somehow, some way, that 80% still managed to cover our ends meet, or make our ends meet.
Absolutely, it does.
It makes sense, but it actually did work because it's almost biblical in the sense where God, talks about, test me in this, right? And we actually did that. We were like, we're going to test them. And we put full faith in that, to where we just said, okay, every time we get paid, 10% right off the top goes to him. And then we got in that habit of 10% to us. We took the 80%. We built our lifestyle around it. Lo and behold, it didn't run out. So when he said, test me in this, we actually did that. And it actually worked. It was the most amazing thing.
It's amazing where you can find that 10%. Like if you just think about, I think about my childhood, we have so many more useless expenses now. I mean, how many people here have more than one streaming platform? And do you really need it? I mean, think about it. Like I was just looking the other day because my 3 kids are all in college, and somehow their phones got hooked up to my Apple Cash, Apple payments. And I'm looking at these ridiculous little charges that are coming up. And I'm like, so I just called them all. I'm like, okay, we do not need all these subscriptions. Like who's trying to learn to play the guitar through a dumb app? Pardon my, but I was like, really? Like, you're at a college. I'm sure there's resources there. Go learn to play it by somebody in person. But I just saw this charge on my card. I'm like, absolutely not. I'm like, every one of you, take my card off your Apple Pay. And so it's just, you can find 10%. In the smallest little places, whether that's like coffee every day or
right.
Or you've got Audible books and Kindle. I mean, there's so many little charges that we pay for now.
Correct.
That people could save on.
And that's exactly what it is for us. And what's so funny is you touched on something where it's like you're just like us, because every couple of weeks or whatever, we're trying to pay this or pay that, and all of a sudden, bam, Apple Pay goes through, and we're like, God, man, what are those subscriptions for?
Exactly.
Yeah, so I feel you on that, because we experienced that.
And sorry, I'm just gonna jump in here.
And
so many people are complaining because they feel like we're in a modern famine.
Right.
And it's because they haven't learned those biblically based, but not just biblically based, just psychology based too. Like, for those who are, still not there and maybe, aren't strong in their faith, it's just basic how you treat money and how you think about money and the behaviors. It's training your behaviors. So the next, I was talking about, that's what I did on my first show. So the second show that I did, we talked about how the psychology of the system, how the system works, the behavior, the behavioral psychology of how the system works.
All right.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's really, Ruth is just such a good example of this, though. Like, I mean, her behavior was consistent. She worked to secure a legacy, really, too.
Right.
Right. In one. And if I can, I would love to share one thing about that.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So, my great grandfather started a business, just like he didn't come from much. He started a little furniture business, and then he sold that business. This was in 1925. I think it was a few years before then that he sold his furniture business. And he took that money and he was the founder of a family company. And I obviously never met. He was it would have been my great grandfather. I was trying to count how many generations back. So anyway, like I never got to meet him in my lifetime, but his business sense and the way that he treated money and the way that he looked at legacy in the future was passed down to us. And the thing is, it took him, he didn't make a profit in that family business for a really long time, because you have to think not long after 1925, we had the Great Depression. And so they started with 6 and they ended up with two business partners, both family. One was a son-in-law. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because it was passed down through my grandmother and then through my father, that he established it so that this company can only be in our family. Like we can't pass it to anyone outside of the family. And he never wanted any one generation to get rich. So the way that he structured the family company was that it would be comfortable for multiple generations, but not one generation was ever going to be wealthy off of it or get, ridiculously rich. And my dad drilled that into me like over and over. My dad was the president of the company for 30 plus years before he passed away. And he was like, this is about consistency. It's about waiting. My great grandfather waited over 20 years before there was really a profit. But he was securing that legacy just like Ruth did. He was securing that legacy for the future generations. And then look what we got. We got Jesus. Well, we got David, and then we got Jesus. So I look at that and I'm like, I feel like that was such a huge blessing in my life. Like, it's a lesson that a lot of people don't get to learn. And I always want to pass that forward, like pass it not just to my kids, but to everyone that I meet. Like I've been blessed. So I want to help other people learn how to do that and to secure that legacy for their family. So.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing.
I'm glad you brought it up. You're like, can I? Listen, I made it very clear in the beginning. We want you to jump in when you feel it. So sharing that with us. I mean, that's beautiful.
Speaking of your great grandfather, so we're going to transition into Boaz, because that just is a nice transition.
That is perfect. We didn't plan it this way, but you really kind of set it up perfectly for us to kind of shift from Ruth and to talk about Boaz.
Yes. And so he wasn't a king, he wasn't a judge, he wasn't a conqueror. He had some land, right?
Yeah, and he didn't bend the law. He honored it. Yeah. And I think that distinction really matters here more than people realize, because Boaz didn't save Ruth by gaming the system. He didn't like pull some strings or rub some elbows or whatever. He didn't try to rewrite the rules in his favor. He operated inside a system where the rules actually protected people, and all he did was just follow them, right? And I think that's basically the stage that we kind of need to sit with here in our perspective. Because Ruth wasn't rescued by power. She was protected by order.
Yep, and there's a huge difference between those two things.
So with that said, KC, what do you think happens when rules are actually stable versus when rules change depending on who's in the room, so to speak?
Well, there's less opacity, there's less cloudiness, there's less corruption, right? There's truth. Like things get clearer, things are transparent, and things are binding too, like both legally and I just think there's a lot less corruption because everything is transparent too.
And it's kind of where we where we would really like to see us get to in terms of where we are currently in our system. I'm sorry, you were going to say something.
No.
Anyway, you were tapping me, so that's why I thought.
Oh no, it already flew out my head.
Oh,
so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
It'll come back.
So Casey, obviously, here in the news lately, certainly over the last week or so, a hot topic is gold and silver, right? Everybody's watching gold and silver. Why? Because, literally for thousands of years, it has been a store of value, store of wealth, a monetary value, if you will, a form of money. And they've been able to outlast. Okay, hold that thought.
Mm-hmm.
They've been able to outlast empires, right? In terms of gold and silver. So, Casey, where do you think that metals actually still make sense, and where does something like Bitcoin actually beat them? In your understanding of what you know thus far?
Well, I mean, I'm a big fan of, you might have just opened up a can of worms here, Digi. But so I am a fan of physical silver and golds, but I have come around to your view on Bitcoin, but I do still have a little bit of a different perspective about. I believe that Bitcoin is digital gold. It is
Correct.
The vault. It is the exit ramp. It is a weapon. It is a weapon to exit a corrupt system. And I personally believe that XRP is digital silver. They do different jobs.
Correct.
They act differently. They're two different weapons, two different tools in the same war. In my opinion, in my belief. So I don't think that, like, silver, hold on to it if you have it, definitely. If you're holding it now. I know we just had, what was it, the largest intraday drop since 1980. But it is about to go way back up. Like, there's lots of headlines right now. JP Morgan, caught the exact bottom, which tells me they knew what was coming. Actually, I'm so sorry. I need to pause because I didn't realize that I'm not plugged in and I don't want to have my screen go off on you guys.
Oh,
that wouldn't be a good thing.
Yeah, no,
okay, you pause. We'll keep chatting over here.
I apologize.
No, you're good. You're
good. Something that you brought up, Casey, or something that you mentioned. When it comes to gold, it's not practical in terms of its portability.
Absolutely.
Its portability is a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if anybody's ever actually held in their hand a gold bar. Have you ever held one?
I haven't.
No. They're heavy. They're extremely heavy, right?
I'd like to experience it.
Well, they're heavy. And let's say you're looking at, because everyone's like, let's operate on the gold standard and whatnot. You take something like having to do a monetary transfer from let's say the New York Federal Reserve to some foreign nation across the pond, right?
Yep.
And let's say it's like $100 billion. Well, one gold brick is pretty doggone heavy. Even though it's priced at currently, what is it? I don't know, $4,000, $4,500, whatever it is. I haven't looked recently. The chat, y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. but they're heavy. Could you imagine having to have that much gold and having to transport it in terms of the portability of that amount? I mean, does it make sense?
It doesn't. I mean, that's like historically been an issue, right?
Right. So living in a digital age where we find ourselves now is exactly the point I was going to make that you basically already touched on, KC, and that is, Bitcoin is essentially digital gold. Right. That is what it is. It's taken the concept of gold itself and it's transforming it into a digital asset that is portable, unlike gold, right? So, are you familiar with Michael Saylor?
Yes.
Okay, most people are. Since we're talking about gold and silver, I just want to play this quick little clip because everybody likes to compare gold and Bitcoin, and I just want to take a look at something. What would have happened if you just invested $100 in gold versus the same $100 in Bitcoin over the last couple of years? Let's take a look.
So the very simple idea is buy 20 or 25% of the Bitcoin network on behalf of the U.S. government, catalyze the development of that world reserve capital network, and then let all the Chinese and the Russians and the foreigners sell all their other assets and buy Bitcoin, and then the money flows into the United States. If you want to put a great twist on it, dump your gold, sell all the U.S. gold, buy Bitcoin, then the trade is free because you could buy 5 million Bitcoin for the cost of the gold. You will demonetize the entire gold asset class, and our enemies hold gold in their banks, so their assets would go to zero. Our assets would go to $100 trillion, and we would control the world's reserve capital network as well as the world's reserve currency network.
As usual, you're painting a grand and vivid picture, Michael, with this kind of stuff.
He's like, it's a simple idea, right? But you know what? You know what? He's onto something. His concept of what he's talking about completely dismantles the entire whole disease corrupt temple 100%. And it puts America on a whole new level of the golden age, so to speak, at that point. What are your thoughts on what he said?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And it does put America on a whole new level, which I'm sure we're going to get into at some point here if it doesn't go on too long. But, I think there's strategy at play. I trust our president. I trust our administration. I believe that they've seen for a long time that the digital war that's going on isn't just a digital war. It's financial. It's an economic war as well, and the digital piece of it plays into it. And what I was going to say is, I hope we get into Venezuela and the possibility of the shadow reserve.
Well, we definitely are. And that's, I think the point that we were trying to make, in terms of Bitcoin, because it doesn't negotiate, it doesn't pivot, it just keeps producing blocks. And, that's very uncomfortable for a lot of these institutions because they rely on secrecy and control and backroom deals behind closed doors. And that's actually right where we are with Ruth once again, because she didn't win by gaming the system. She won because the rules were held in place. Bitcoin works in that same way. It's got stable rules. There's no insiders, right? There's no fraternity. It doesn't make exceptions, right? It doesn't just print more Bitcoin just because we're running low. So with that being said, KC, let's take someone who's actually brand new, that walks into the Bitcoin space or the crypto universe for the very first time. They're excited. They want to get in. What's the very first mistake that you see them make, and what do you think it actually costs them in that process?
I think that a lot of people are thinking short term. They buy in when people are excited. It's that whole market psychology. They see things going up and they think they're going to go up forever, and they join in the excitement and the hype and the trust me, bro, it's going to be great. And like that whole, guys sitting in baseball caps. Not you, DIGI. That wasn't a dig on you. But the trust me, bro, crypto guys. They're all like, come on, hyping it up. They're probably getting something out of it. They're just wanting these people to buy in as things are really, really hitting a top, because they want, those people are going to end up being exit liquidity for other people. And they're thinking short term, but they buy in on that hype. That's the biggest mistake I see. They don't care about it. They don't think about it when things are down. And so it's flipping that. And you can hear that a million times, but until you actually experience that, where I went through it myself, I went through it myself back in April and then again in October, because I didn't take profit from some of the cryptos that I had. There is an emotional piece to that where you think, oh yeah, of course I'm going to, but you just don't believe that it's going to stop. And then when it goes down, you don't believe that it's ever going back up. So people panic sell. So they just liquidate, they get rid of everything. And then they buy back in when the hype starts again. They buy back in at the top. And it's breaking that cycle. That's why Warren Buffett always said, like, buy when there's blood in the streets. And what he meant by that is like buy the dips. Now I tend to wait until I see like it reversing before I start buying back, because sometimes you don't know how long it's going to go sideways at the bottom before it goes back up, but it will go back up if you're investing in things like Bitcoin. Like if you're investing in something that has value, that is a vault for, it's a digital gold, it's a store of value. If you're investing in things that have real utility, that are solving problems in the world, that are doing something, then chances are they're going to go up. It's when you start throwing your money at things like, meme coins that
what?
It becomes a casino, like meme coins. That's when it becomes a casino. Yeah. And then you're just, you never know what's going to happen there. But Bitcoin is so predictable. I know this week is probably a bad time to say that, but it's still, if you look at historically, this is what happens. And then I look at it like a slingshot. What's happening this week?
That's exactly what I was thinking too. Is this pull back?
The longer we pull back, the further we're going to shoot forward.
That's exactly. The rebound is going to be. Woo.
Right.
I was thinking the exact same thing, like a David slingshot.
Exactly.
But when we were talking on the phone prior to the show, you shared a really great perspective on how you saw XRP fitting in to this, and I really wanted you to share that, because
Absolutely.
I really liked what you had to say.
I know we probably have some XRP lovers here, and I would say if you're just starting, that Bitcoin is the safe bet. It's proven, right? So I'm just going to give that disclaimer, and of course, nothing I say is ever financial advice. It's just education, financial education. But with XRP, and I've researched this so much, I said that I thought that they acted like digital gold and digital silver. And funny enough, I found that the logo colors are actually colors, exact hex codes, the colors of molten gold and molten silver. Now, like, do you think that's a coincidence? So as I'm digging into this, I'm like, okay, so we know why Bitcoin was created. We know that right in its white paper, it says that it is meant to be an exit. It's decentralized and it's meant to be a weapon. I believe that XRP is the flip side of that coin. It's, Bitcoin is really the exit ramp for retail people, and this is how we exit the system. And on the other side of that, I believe that XRP was created as a weapon as well on the institutional side, because what happens, so the way that I looked at it, I actually thought about this after we talked this weekend.
Yeah.
Bitcoin is pressure from the bottom.
Right.
And this administration, being crypto friendly and with the national security strategy, with geopolitics, with our wonderful president in office, we've got pressure from the top. I believe that XRP is pressure from within. So nothing can withstand that. The system can't withstand pressure from everywhere. So I look at XRP as the Trojan horse. I know they have partnerships all over the place. But what happens when you force corrupt systems and opaque, cloudy, confusing systems onto rails that are transparent?
Right.
That's how you move it over. Because my biggest concern, and the reason that I really started looking into this, is I want the exit, and I think Bitcoin is the exit for regular people, for a lot of things. But there are people that can't exit right now fully. What about pensions? What about, there are a lot of reasons. So if, I just think about like my family, we've got things tied up in accounts that we aren't allowed to do anything about, right? So we can't fully exit the system right now.
Right. Good point.
And there's a lot of people that are going to be in that situation. Retirement accounts are, IRAs, things like that can't pull all of their money out. So I think the system needs to collapse because it's awful and it's corrupt, but I don't think that we can collapse it without
sinking
it, unless we infiltrate from the inside and we force them onto rails and architecture that is more transparent than ever before. So that's where I'm coming from with XRP. That is not saying buy it. That's not saying sell it. I do believe that Bitcoin, I believe everything that you guys have taught me about Bitcoin. And I do believe it's the exit. But I mean, what if this is two weapons in the same war, fighting two sides of the system, so that when institutions finally become transparent and aren't able to be as corrupt, right? Once that happens, it doesn't collapse on top of all of us who are still stuck in the system.
Right. Yeah.
To a degree.
Yeah. See, and I'm glad she asked you to kind of lean into that a little bit, because, when we did talk about this the other day, and you kind of, gave your perspective on it, I didn't really ever see it through that lens, because, I make no secret about it. I'm a Bitcoin maxi. I've had XRP. I had lots of XRP. I bought it back in the day when it was like 15, 20 cents or whatever. So, I mean, I wrote it up when it got to about 250 a couple of years ago. Well, I don't know, maybe about a year and a half ago, I guess. It kind of got up to about 250 and I got out. 100% got out and then just flipped it over to Bitcoin, and I haven't looked back at XRP at all. So I made a little bit from purchase to sell. But when you frame it the way that you frame it, I absolutely can see what it is that you're saying. But at the same time that I see it, I still put every egg I have in the basket of Bitcoin for the mere purpose of this, because I know this is a topic for so many in the XRP space, and that is the ISO 222 compliance. You hear that a lot. You hear about they talk about a lot of the institutions are getting ready for it. The biggest problem I have with all of that is it's almost like for me, it's like putting lipstick on a pig. It's still a pig, even if you have lipstick on it, because I don't want a monetary system that is compliant. I don't want a monetary system that the banks like and favor, right? Because I don't like the banks from the start. So why would I like anything that they like? The fact that they don't like Bitcoin is why I like Bitcoin, right?
Right.
I look at things through the, being a Q-tard, I look at things through the lens of, when we see things happen, like with Trump and his administration, and, whether good or bad, what I'm looking for is how the left and the fake news reacts. If they're reacting favorably, then I might want to take a second look at whatever it is, because they're never on board with what he's doing. So if they're favorable about it, why is that? Versus when he does something and it just pisses them off and it makes them do all kinds of crazy stuff, I'm always in support of those things, that Trump is doing, because obviously it's pissing off all the right people. Right.
Yep.
So I have that same kind of perception, if you will, when it comes to XRP versus Bitcoin. I look at Bitcoin more favorably over XRP simply because they don't like Bitcoin. That's all I need to hear, right? Because the reason they don't like it, unlike XRP, is because they can't control it. And for me, I'm anti-authority. I have big problems with authority. I always have, right?
Right.
And I don't like systems of control. So if they have a system like they're describing, where those rails are put in place, that they are favorable thereof, that just to me is like basically a shinier caged system in the digital space, because they're still in control of it. Whereas like Bitcoin, it's so much different, because you actually take, when you take self-custody, that is like complete sovereignty.
Right. Absolutely.
You are out of their system.
Right.
They've got no authority over you. They've got no say over you. They can't just hit a button and shut you down because they didn't like the post that you just made on social media. But see, that's where XRP for me is on a slippery slope, because if it still has that centralized control mechanism, so to speak, they can do that with that. And that's what really turns me completely off, is because I am more about opting out of their system and having nothing to do with it whatsoever, versus even having a big toe still stuck in the water.
I
don't
get
want
it.
But
I get where you're coming from.
Like saying, it's like a Trojan. If XRP is a Trojan horse for those who hate Bitcoin, but gets them in this other place, right?
That's exactly what I was saying. And I see where you're coming from, which is why I have been buying Bitcoin, especially this week. It's great, I actually bought more Bitcoin than anything else this week. So that's
good
great.
for you.
Yeah,
good for you.
It's
on sale.
I completely see where you're coming from. My perspective on this, especially having been inside of banks and knowing how things work and how cloudy they are and not transparent, it's easier to hide things. We think we put money in a bank, and it's really an IOU. They're not keeping our money, they're lending it out, they're making money on it. So for all of those reasons, I believe in Bitcoin as the exit. But I also do believe that anything that can force the systems that we have onto transparent rails and basically trick them into it. I mean, this is how I see XRP. They are like, hey, we can move your money faster and we can move it for a lot cheaper. Okay, so banks buy in, they get that buy-in. What they don't realize is like there's no hiding anything anymore. It is on this transparent, completely clear ledger. So we're moving a corrupt system onto a transparent ledger, and they don't even know
whether
what's
they like it or not.
Yeah.
whether they like it or not. They don't even know what's coming for them.
And that's
so
what I
I'm
love.
in favor of anything that is going to force more transparency in the system that we do currently live in, because in hopes that in the future that corruption will be gone, that system will be gone, but that system isn't going to die quickly.
Overnight. No,
it's gonna be a long, slow death, but this is a way to force it into a more transparent place in our lifetime. Like in our, in a time that we can see. So that's where I'm coming from. I completely see where you're coming from, and I believe everything that you're saying about Bitcoin. I just have a little bit of a I don't know. I'm kind of a system fighter, so I'm a little bit of a rebel with that. I'm like, I'm not going to do this just because you told me to, and so, and I'm not afraid to say that to people at all levels. And so, anyway, I am all about something that will change the system that is broken.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that broken system for a moment. Like, I want to tie all this together to what's happening now. So, like, we're going to talk about the Fed for a moment, right? And so, what exactly is the Fed? You touched on something a little bit earlier, that you spent time studying the psychology of the Fed system, right?
The behavior, really, which comes down to psychology. I mean, they've just been robbing us since 1913, actually before then too. We had 2 failed attempts at a centralized banking system. Yeah. And if you have not read is it The Creature of Jekyll Island?
Yep.
Oh,
you should.
That's about when it all went down.
Exactly.
Yep.
Great book. And it talks about how everything went down, but how corrupt the system has been. It has been feeding off of us. If you look at a chart, there's a chart floating around online. I don't have it to pull up right now, but there's a chart that shows inflation from early 1900s until now. And you can see it's like flat. Actually, I think it was like late 1800s, but it's a flat line. And then it just looks like a straight line up, and that is all. We didn't have taxes before then. The American, I think even by like 1920 something, it was like such a small percentage of American families that even had to file taxes. Everything was through tariffs. And we had manufacturing at home, we had industry at home, all of those things that I feel like since the Fed came in, have contributed to a society that has become apathetic.
Yes.
They outsource everything. They send it overseas. They don't want to be responsible for anything, to the point where they don't even see that our money is being robbed. Like our money is, you put something in Bitcoin and I mean, it's not 100% inflation proof yet, because it can still be mined, but it will be once it's all,
once it's done.
I mean, and it's pretty inflation proof, but like it won't be 100%, until everything is mined. But I don't know, but like our dollars, you put the same amount now today to US dollar versus Bitcoin, and you're going to be in a much better place in 5 years. Because even investors, even the S&P 500 or, some of the big index funds, they're not really over the long term, let's say like 10 years, they're not really beating inflation. So basically you're putting your money in the bank and you might be breaking even, you might even be less 10 years from now.
Right.
Or into investments, even if you're getting gains, that's why I also want to teach people how to learn. I mean, I'm not claiming to know it all. I'm learning right along with my audience.
We're doing the same thing.
You know, yeah, like if I don't know the answer, I'll tell you and I'll go research the heck out of it and then I'll come back with an answer, you know, but I don't know it all, but I want people to take that power to take control of their own money, to take control of their own investments. And Bitcoin is the best example of that currently.
I agree.
Absolutely. You know, what do you think would happen if right now, let's talk about everybody in the chat right now, everybody that's with us. Let's see, we got Courteous, Chica, Seth, good to see you, brother. John, Justice Cometh, Andrea, Allison, Tammy, for real. Let's just talk about just the people that I'm looking at right here in the chat. Anybody else that I haven't mentioned? I'm not meaning any offense. This is a message for all of y'all, okay?
Talking about inflation.
KC.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody I just mentioned, and everybody that I didn't get to, everybody in the chat. Paint the picture, if you will, for everybody listening. What life might look like for them if they were to say, get in the habit of dollar cost averaging $10 a week. Or you know what? We can make it $20 every 2 weeks, whatever. Just $10 a week. Investing in themselves in Bitcoin. Paint the picture. What would that look like for everybody listening, let's say 5 years from now?
I mean, 5 years from now, 5 years from now, the whole world is going to be using Bitcoin. I'm going to kind of touch on Venezuela again, because I don't know if you, I wish I had sent you that link so that you could play them.
I've got Venezuela links coming up. We're going to get
okay, good, because you know, Maria Corina Machado just did some interviews recently after the capture of Maduro, and said that that the goal is that the entire nation of Venezuela will be using Bitcoin as their currency by the end of 2026.
Wow.
So we've got 10 months until they're on Bitcoin, solely Bitcoin currency system.
That's awesome, though.
And so I'm looking at that and I'm thinking, when we start getting adoption around the world in places where people they don't even have access to banks. Think about what this is going to do to third world countries too. I mean, when we get this kind of adoption, which we're now starting to see at a nation state level, where they're using this Bitcoin as their currency system, as their monetary system, you start investing in that now. And you know, the Fold app. You guys taught me about the Fold app. I'm watching my little sets stack up nonstop, and I am loving it. I get so excited. I was like down $5 the other day, and I was like, oh, like in my rewards. Like, that's nothing, but I know what that $5 is going to be worth in 5 years, and it's going to be a lot. It's going to be a heck of a lot more than if I dump it into the S&P 500.
And that's what I wanted you to touch on, because I believe everybody listening tonight and anybody that might catch the replay, if there's any takeaway, just get in the habit. Start somewhere. Like we talked about, you know, a couple of weeks ago in Joshua, you got to take a step and cross that Jordan, right? You do it in faith. And what you do is you just start small, like we just talked about, and get in that habit. Even if it's $10 a week, that's it. Just $10, $40 a month, whatever. and you get in the habit of doing that, in 5 years, you will not have the same life you do today. That much I can guarantee you, because where everything is going, like you're touching on, KC, because I know you're getting excited about Venezuela, and we're gonna unpack that in a minute. You know, where everything is going, that is the future. It's just, when do you want to enter into it? Do you want to wait until the rest of the world catches up? Or do you want to maybe get ahead of everybody else and get in early? Because that's really kind of what we're talking about here. And that's what we're trying to help educate people here. And even if it's not Bitcoin, KC, with what you're doing on your show with Ladies of Crypto, you're more or less teaching the same thing. You got to start, you know, with your best foot forward and get going.
Absolutely. Yeah, the whole premise of my show is, you would think that it would be all women. There's a lot of men that watch my show. And I think it's because they can benefit. It's two different approaches. And I believe that real wealth is built when you combine those two. So it's women's ability to, you know, to be more risk adverse and to look long-term, think long-term strategy. And men have this gift where they can, they tend to be more decisive, and they can see short-term opportunities that can help. So I have a whole balancing strategy where it's like 60% women's psychology, 30% men's psychology, and 10% of money that you can call tuition, learning the markets.
Yeah, nice.
Well, I was showed it a second ago. Show it again. Shauna in the chat said, "I'm jumping in this payday." I've showed it twice now, Shauna. It's so funny you actually said that, because I was just having a conversation with Sky this morning. I was telling her, I said, Bitcoin is so low right now.
We gotta get some. I
was like, we got to be taking everything and just rolling it over, because this thing is about to bounce back.
Yeah, sling back.
And when it bounces back, just the paycheck alone is going to springboard into a bigger paycheck by default. And the safest way to do that, since you brought up Fold, KC, and I'm glad you did, because, you know, I really believe Fold is the best way to onboard in this system easily. But the safest way to do what I was describing is actually with River. I don't know if you know this, but, you know, River has a system where they're set up where you can basically take your paycheck or your income or whatever, and actually store it in their cash account system. Because what's interesting is their cash account that's linked to the Bitcoin exchange within River actually has an interest rate attached to it. And I believe the current rate is 3.8%. It's not a savings account. It's a cash account with an interest rate, paying 3.8, not in cash, but in Bitcoin. So you can actually take your paycheck, roll it over into River, and put it into the cash account, so that your paycheck is accumulating free Bitcoin at 3.8% interest rate, until you decide you need to, you know, take it out in order to pay bills. So you're actually accumulating Bitcoin in the process safely. So you don't even have to put it in, like, roll it into Bitcoin, so to speak, out of fear of, you know, well, it might get lower. I don't want to lose money right now. I'm trying to pay bills. I get that. We learned the hard way. We don't do it that way anymore. we'll take the money, we put it in there, and it goes down. It's like, oh my God, we can't pay bills now. So we don't do that anymore. What we do is we put
quick access to that. I'm just curious now. Do you have quick access to that cash? Yes. That cash account?
100%. Yeah. You can access it. And what we actually do is, since you asked the question, we keep it in the cash account that rewards us at a 3.8% return in Bitcoin. And when it comes time to actually tap into those resources, like, let's say, I'm going to keep it small numbers. Let's say we need $100 because we got to go pay a bill, right? We'll take $100 of that cash. We'll immediately purchase $100 of Bitcoin, and then we link our wallet address from Fold, enlightening it to Fold, and it's right on our Fold card. So it's a seamless process, but the money started in the cash account where we're actually making a 3.8% return. So it's a system that's not only built and running parallel and already in place that helps you escape, it's a system that actually helps you get ahead. So, Bank of America, Wells Fargo, Chase, all of the big three, they don't have anything like this.
No.
Has anybody ever heard of a checking account that actually has?
I have, only because I do use a different platform where I have that. It's 3.5%, drops down to 2.75 at different times. I haven't had mine drop down yet, but 3.8 is fantastic. And I have quick access to cash, but that's outside of the traditional banking system as well. And so, excuse me, it's outside of the traditional banking system, and 3.8% cash, yield on, that's like a very high yield on a cash account.
It is. And just for everybody who might want to get started on River to do what we were just talking about, the QR code at the top, you can screenshot that and use that, or we've got our promo code at the bottom for River. But it's a real simple way to manage your banking and finance now and actually accumulate Bitcoin for free, on the side. So, just something to keep in mind. I think it's a very useful tool because you had brought up Fold, and that is an easy way to stack, through your everyday purchases. Mm-hmm. But when you're not purchasing, there's also an easy way to stack by just keeping it in that cash account that pays you a little dividend in Bitcoin. So, any free Bitcoin that you can accumulate, now's the time to do it, because think about this. Whatever you purchase at the price that it's at, or whatever you accumulate at the price that it's at, when it goes up, even that free Bitcoin that you're accumulating goes up too.
Exactly.
So, the opportunities,
the
opportunities here to make money are there. You just have to act.
Patient.
You have to be patient. You have to be disciplined. You have to be committed,
little
right?
by little, day by day.
So,
Ruth.
You got to be Ruth. That's
You
exactly
gotta-
right.
you gotta glean.
For like years.
You gotta glean. You gotta glean, right?
Exactly.
So, anyway, I want to kind of shift gears, because we talked a little bit about the system and everything, but I want to talk about something real exciting right now, that especially for me as a Bitcoiner. Kevin Warsh, Trump's new nominee for the Fed pick, right? I think it's very interesting because he's actually not new to this world. He's been inside the Fed before. He understands how the machine works. And Trump obviously nominating him as his Fed chair, I think is really, really cool. But here's where things actually kind of start to get spicy, I think, so to speak, being the fact that he's a Bitcoin friendly kind of guy. Right?
Yeah. So he's not afraid to acknowledge it as something real. Like, it's not a shiny new toy, and It's not just a passing phase. It's something that's here. So, you've got rule-based money that can't be manipulated, on the one hand, and then an institution whose entire job is manipulation. So it's going to be interesting to see, right?
I think so, because, the system appointing someone who actually understands the thing that would actually expose the system, I don't believe that's a coincidence. This guy has been in Trump's orbit for over a decade. He actually wanted him before. I don't know if everybody knows that. This guy's been around the block in Trump's orbit. And the fact that he is a pro-Bitcoiner really has my antennas up. But you know what? I don't want to sit here and have y'all take my word for it. Why don't we actually get to know Kevin Warsh, Trump's new nominee Fed chair pick, And let's get to hear it in his own words and what in terms of what he has to say. Let's take a look.
Are you on board with Bitcoin? I know Stan Druckenmiller is now on board. I think when we've talked about Bitcoin in the past, I think you had perhaps a lesser view. I don't know if you have a different view today.
Stan calls me his partner. I call him my boss. One of us is lying, but I'll let you figure out who's who in that, Andrew. So I'd say I think that Bitcoin does make sense as part of a portfolio in this environment where you have the most fundamental shift, for example, in monetary policy since Paul Volcker. This is a big shift that we're seeing under the Powell Fed, rightly or wrongly. So I'm not surprised in a period of dollar weakness where Bitcoin's doing what it's doing. And I'd also suggest that part of the move in Bitcoin is taking some of the bid away from gold. I think if Bitcoin never existed, gold would be rallying even more right now. But I guess if you're under 40, Bitcoin is your new gold. So I think of Bitcoin as a lot of things, but it's certainly with every passing day getting new life as an alternative currency. And when you see the strength of the euro, the strength of the pound, the strength of the RMB, the Korean won, the Mexican peso, I guess we shouldn't be surprised to see the strength of Bitcoin as well.
You made reference to Bitcoin, and I thought I heard a little bit of condescension that people are buying Bitcoin and these things.
But doesn't it? Charlie Munger, this is 2 or 3 years before he died, Charlie Munger attacked Bitcoin. He called it evil, in part because it would begin to undermine the Fed's ability to manage the economy.
Or it could provide market discipline, or it could tell the world that things need to be fixed.
Bitcoin does not make you nervous.
Bitcoin does not make me nervous. I can hearken back to a dinner I had here in 2011 with someone who is another guest on your show. I won't say his name. I just did Mark Andreessen, who showed me the white paper. That was the original white paper. I wish I had understood as clearly as he did how transformative Bitcoin and this new technology would be. Bitcoin doesn't trouble me. I think of it as an important asset that can help inform policymakers when they're doing things right and wrong. It is not a substitute to the dollar. I think it can often be a very good policeman for policy. And if I were to speak more broadly to what did Charlie Munger and others perhaps have in mind, there is a proliferation of securities that go under all sorts of names. Many, if not most of them, are not worth what they might be being traded for. So what did Charlie say, and maybe his pal Warren say? There's the innovators, the imitators, and the incompetents. They're real innovators that are happening in and around that new technology. And what I would try to impart towards businesses and bankers is that the underlying technology that Mark showed me in that white paper, or tried to show me in that white paper, it's just software. It's just the newest, coolest software that will provide us an ability to do things that we could never have done before. Can the software be used for good and evil? Yes, both, like all software. Right. So I don't cast aspersions like that. If there's a final point, it's these technologies are being built here. I don't just mean on Stanford campus. I believe in the United States. And the world's most talented engineers from China and Europe and everywhere, they come to the United States even now to try to build this stuff. And my view is by building it here, that gives us an opportunity to be more productive and create something very special over the next decade.
So KC, first of all, did you notice what color his tie was? It was orange. I'm just saying, right?
Unmute.
I think you might still be on mute. Sorry about that. But yeah, he had on an orange tie. But this is Trump's guy that's going to be taking over the Fed. Clearly, he knows Bitcoin, and clearly he is a strong advocate for it.
Right.
As we know, Trump took office a little over a year ago. And one of the first things he did when he sat down in the Oval Office was he signed an executive order for the Strategic National Bitcoin Reserve. So you've got what Trump is doing. You've got what his entire administration is signaling. And now you've got his nominee for Fed chair wearing an orange tie and talking about his views on Bitcoin and how it plays into the future. With all of that being said, how can anyone not see the signal at this point in terms of what the future holds?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that aren't awake, DIGI, and they don't see it yet. But that's why what you guys are doing is so amazing. You know, you're helping people see this. You're helping them see all the connections, all the dots connecting with this all over the place. You know, it's almost like, you know, banner blindness, you know, like in advertising. People just scroll right past ads now. They get banner blindness because they see the same thing. People have been hearing about this, and then they see it drop again, and then they hear about it, and then they see it drop again. So people have almost become immune to it until they hear it presented in a way that makes sense as an exit from the system. I think that's what more people need to be talking about.
Yeah.
Well, with that said, I think it's time to get into the moment I know that you've been waiting for so patiently. Something that obviously is a hot button topic, you know, with so much going on right now in terms of current events, because everything we're discussing here actually matters beyond the United States, specifically Venezuela, right?
Absolutely.
Because the Fed, they kind of set the tone for how central banks operate globally, right? And when that model starts to break down, you know, let's take a look at Venezuela, right? Let's look at what's happening there, because I mean, you see it.
Well, yeah, because when the money systems collapse, people don't sit around and start becoming philosophers. You know, they're immediately turned into survivors, and so like I think things have gotten so bad that, you know, well, let's take a look at Sesame Street. It's even affected.
Things have gotten so bad as of late that it's even affecting Sesame Street.
In a city where dreams are shattered and innocence is a thing of the past. Welcome to Sesame Street. Once a place of laughter and learning, Sesame Street has fallen into the shadow. The residents, let's just say, they've changed.
Hey Bert, you sure this is gonna work? We mess up and Big Bird ain't gonna be the only one flying.
Relax, Ernie. We've got this. We just need to stay one step ahead of the count.
1, 2, 3, debts to collect. Get out! Hit it, girl! Work it!
You think this place ever had hope, Elmo?
Hope left a long time ago, Oscar. Now it's just about survival.
In this world, survival means playing the game, and the game has no rules.
Come on, man. Got any more of them cookies? Help a monster out. Super Grover! Joke! 962!
Think just because I'm big and yellow I won't mess you up? Think again, punk?
Welcome to Sesame Street, where every day is a fight and only the strong survive.
This mess made possible by the non-contributions from viewers like you. Thanks for nothing, you bastards.
Coming soon. Prepare for a journey into the motherfucking darkness.
Agua! Agua! Shut up!
So, I mean, things have gotten so bad that Sesame Street is now a dumpster fire, right? I mean, that was Sesame Street, folks. I know it looked like Minneapolis right now, but it was actually Sesame Street. I just wanted to share that because I thought it was cute because it kind of depicts, you know, so much of what we see in terms of the decay, the breakdown, the chaos, and everything. But it's all because of what, KC? What is causing all of this? There's a common denominator here, and it's it's affecting what's going on in Venezuela. And that's what I'm so excited to have you talk about tonight, because I want to hear your perspective in terms of what you think is actually happening in terms of how things are currently and how things are actually going to be evolving and changing as we move forward. I know you talked about Marina a second ago, or a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Venezuela is not an accident. It's what happens when the Fed model has actually run to its final conclusion, right?
Right.
Tell us what you know about what you see from your perspective.
I mean, Venezuela has been an issue for a long time, and it's a choke point in the Western Hemisphere. Back before Maduro was even captured, Tracy Taylor wrote an incredible article talking about Venezuela, and there's a lot of background. So if you guys haven't read that, go read it. And then I saw one from Sky and one from you, Digi. Great background to everything that kind of comes to a point, because you've got, it's a choke point. It was a tinder box before this, and but it is so much deeper than even that. I mean, you've got everything that you can imagine on a geopolitical scale coming together in Venezuela, and it's like a cancer. Like when there's that level of corruption, they start to spread it out to the rest of the Western Hemisphere. So that started coming in further and further to the United States, and in many cases infiltrated the United States. Let's look at elections, but we've got financial or monetary wars, economic wars from Venezuela. We're fighting drug wars. We're fighting infiltration from adversaries into our hemisphere, security issues, intelligence issues. It all came to a head in Venezuela based on the corruption. And interestingly enough, digital currency. Digital currency came to a head there. And what is going on right now in Venezuela, even if there's a possibility that Venezuela acquired a massive shadow reserve, it's suspected or rumored that they acquired maybe between 600,000 and 660,000 Bitcoin. It hasn't been verified on the blockchain yet, so I will say that. But if that were the case, from whether it was from legal or illegal activity, because of legitimacy issues with the regime and elections, and it pierced sovereignty, right? Like it will pierce sovereignty. Sovereignty has already been pierced in Venezuela with the chain of Crystallex cases, which was in Tracy Taylor's article on Substack. That would be great if anybody has a link to that. It shows what happened. Basically, I'll just give you a brief part of background there, is that the Crystallex chain of cases, they established the alter ego doctrine in a court of law. So Crystallex was awarded a massive amount of money because PDVSA, which is the oil company that is owned by the state of Venezuela, expropriated golds. Expropriated, I don't remember every detail about that, but the thing was they were awarded a major award, like a huge amount of money, and they Venezuela was like, nope, we're not giving it to you, because it's, they're an illegitimate regime and they're corrupt. So they went after the U.S. holdings, because the state oil company, PDVSA, had U.S. holdings, and Citgo was one of those. And so they went after them in a court of law. They went after the company, PDVSA, to attach assets to get their award. And what was found, I think there were 6 cases dating back to, I think they started in 2017. And in 2023, a court of law found that PDVSA was an alter ego of the state of Venezuela. And because they were an alter ego, this alter ego doctrine was established in law for the first time. And what that means in layman's terms to you and I is now assets can be attached, because now any company that is operating or is operated by the state, or that the state has, their tentacles in, is considered an alter ego of the state, and any attachments, they'll be seen as one and the same. So we can, like as the United States, we can now seize assets from either. We can seize it from any of these state-run companies now, and we can seize it from the nation state of Venezuela itself. And so this is very new. That doctrine hadn't ever been attached before. And it pierces sovereignty, because also in that chain of cases, what they said was Maduro is not, his regime is not legitimate.
Correct.
The United States recognized, I think it was Guaido at the time. I'm butchering the name.
Yeah.
Back in 2017. This was before.
Guaido, something like that. I know who you're talking. Eduardo Guaido, something like that.
Well, Gonzalez was the 2024 winner. He stepped in when Maria Machado was banned from running for public office for 15 years by Machado, by the jeez, Maduro regime. Their names are too close.
Yeah, they are.
But anyway, so I believe that there was more to this story, because under the illegitimate regime, we know that there was so much corruption. They were running drugs. They were, selling oil outside of the petrodollar to the United States adversaries. They even, in Venezuela, they even created the Petra dollar. It was a cryptocurrency. And they tried to put the entire country onto the petrodollar, and then it just quietly disappeared. It just went away. Nobody talked about it anymore. And they started, and so we know for a fact that they started selling oil for USDT, which is the company Tether. It's a stable coin. Right. And, I believe that was probably being converted into Bitcoin, however their networks were working, but they were making a lot of money through illicit and illegal activities, and through corruption, and through ties to foreign nations. And now there's this rumored massive shadow reserve. And I've heard arguments on both sides that, it couldn't exist. It could exist. I believe something exists. And now it doesn't matter if it's in state-run wallets. So there's one gentleman that he's Venezuelan. He's a refugee now in the United States. He escaped years ago. And he's been making the interview circuits. I have his name here. Give me 1 second. Mauricio Di Bartolomea. And he's a refugee now, a Venezuelan refugee in the United States, but he did an interview that was really good on CoinDesk. You can find it on YouTube. But he's been making all the media rounds, mainstream media rounds, saying, well, it's not possible. And he was giving all kinds of reasons, like there's such corruption, they couldn't do this, they should. But every reason that he was giving, I was looking at it and I'm like, well, that's exactly the reason that they could get away with this. That's because of the corruption, because of all of these things. It just didn't make sense. And he really talked about the man, Alex Saab, S-A-A-B, Saab. Okay. Just call him Alex Saab. Alex Saab was a friend and very, close friend of Maduro. He was Colombian born, was embedded into the Venezuelan government, and we know that he controls the 240 known cryptocurrencies. that he's got the wallet keys, that he's the one that can add or take people's name off of. He's got the keys, you know. So we know that for 240. Now, a couple weeks ago, we were talking a little over 20 million. Now it's less than that today, but as opposed to 60 billion.
Right.
We're looking at 60 billion roughly if it's over 600,000 Bitcoin. And with this Alex Saab, I'm just going to call him Alex Saab. He was really embedded, and I actually just learned this today, so I'm fascinated, and I've got another rabbit hole to go down. But he was really embedded with the Maduro regime, and he was involved in all kinds of scams, even food scams. He owned businesses, and he was investigated, and it is believed that the basically scam business that he had, he was selling products to PDVSA, the oil company that represents Venezuela. He's selling them products, billions, actually. And they received like 3 million in actual delivery of any product. So it was all a scam. And then he got into food services. He got into Venezuela's housing. He was shipping out housing components. And people believe that Maduro owned the businesses with him. So that attaches it to the regime, right? And we know that Maduro just adored him because he went to bat for him. He fought for him when he was being investigated for money laundering and fraud. Well, he was arrested in, one last thing. He was also the one that they believe sold $2.7 billion worth of Venezuelan gold in 2018 for Bitcoin. And that's where the rumors started. That's one of the ways that they believe that Bitcoin was acquired. The other was seizing mining equipment from Venezuelan citizens. And then the other was through illicit activities like drugs, selling oil, like off market, black market oil at discount prices. So Alex Saab was arrested, captured, and put in prison in 2021 in the United States. And in 2023, he was released as a part of a prisoner exchange under the auto pen administration. Sorry. So under Biden's administration in December, so he went into a U.S. prison in September of 2021. And in December of 2023, he was released in a prisoner exchange for 10 high-profile. He was exchanged for 10 high-profile U.S. citizens that were imprisoned in Venezuela, and then some other political prisoners that the U.S. fought to get out. But Nicolas Maduro had arrested his business partner. So what does this tell you? This tells me that he went after, in his own country, in Venezuela, he went after Saab's business partner for the same thing that Saab was being accused of. But he went to bat for Saab to get him out. They were like best friends to get him out of a U.S. prison. They made a very high profile trade. Maduro wasn't going to do that if this guy doesn't know something, if he doesn't have something. Right. They're going to leave him there, right? Like, why would, so he got a full pardon out of it. And then not only that, when he came back to Venezuela, Alex Saab was given a high up position in the Maduro regime. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm like, what would be that important that Maduro was willing to go to that extent to bring him back to the country and then give him a really prominent position within Venezuela if he didn't have some kind of leverage and power over Maduro, which very well could be either the keys or knowing where all the Bitcoin is. So that's sorry, I just talked for a really long time there.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, it's okay. Really.
I love it.
Actually, you touched on Marina. Is that her name?
Maria Corina Machado.
Yeah. So, she was just recently at the White House to deliver the Nobel Prize to Trump.
Right.
And, she is that opposition leader down there that I think ultimately is probably at some point going to be put into a position of power because, the moment Maduro was removed, the Trump administration made it very clear to what's her name, Dulce Rodriguez, I think.
Rodriguez, yep.
Yeah, they made it very clear to her, play ball or else, right? So
exactly.
her stay in that role is probably temporary. And I know initially she said, okay, no problem. I'm going to play. But we're already starting to see a little bit of backpedaling already coming from her. And I think that's where we're kind of setting the lead in or the setup, if you will, for Marina. I want to play a clip real quickly. You had sent this to me, Casey, earlier this week that kind of, sheds a little light in terms of where they are in Venezuela in terms of, their economy, but also Bitcoin,
Direction they're heading.
in terms of where they're heading. So I want to show this to everybody real quick. Let's take a look.
To have other people understand, the huge potential Venezuela has, not only for Bitcoin, because this is something we didn't have the chance to speak today, probably not another opportunity, but Venezuela could be the biggest energy hub of the hemisphere.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine a country with this potential, what could do in terms of getting Bitcoin to be a trade and reserve currency because of transactions with a commodity such as oil and gas and other energy. So look, we need to raise our voices. And sometimes I feel like, the world doesn't understand or doesn't care for what's going on here. And today, more than ever, we need your support.
So, she's making it clear in terms of the role that it can play in terms of going forward. And, that's something that is happening, obviously, right now. And we're also seeing, because I know, you had also wanted to touch on this, where Mexico and the cartels kind of come into the picture.
Mm-hmm. Everything was flowing back to Venezuela, right? Like even so, I look at it as cartels in Mexico are the logistics arm. Venezuela is the hub in the Western Hemisphere, and there's always kickbacks to Venezuela. So as we see Venezuela breaking down, we're going to see Cuba breaking down next. And then we are looking at Mexico, where things are being disrupted and people are talking. So I think it was about a month ago. Might have been 6 weeks. No, it couldn't have been, because it was after Maduro was or it was right before Maduro was captured. The United States brought in 55, I think it was, high level leaders in cartels in Mexico. And just in the last week and a half, they just brought in 37 more.
Yep.
And they were turned over by the Mexican government.
Right.
So the Mexican government is now starting to capitulate and play ball, Before they didn't want to send our people because we have the death penalty in the United States. But something has changed. Something has shifted. The power dynamic has shifted. And when you have that many people, it's going to disrupt all of the logistics arm. It's going to just disrupt all of their routes. It's going to disrupt everything. And nobody's going to know who's talking. So who do you think is going to talk? I think you said it earlier, Digi, like when does a cage bird sing? Right?
Yeah.
And you start tightening the screws, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And, you know, they're going to be isolated. They're not going to know who is talking. And the first one to talk is, you know, going to be in much better shape than anyone else.
Yeah. No, I think it's fascinating that all of a sudden they're surrendering, you know, all these high level leaders. Something definitely, like you said, something definitely is changing, you know. And so whether it's their system or our system, I don't know. I think it's both potentially both at the same time. But so when money breaks, you know, and laws become inconsistent, something always fills the gap. And, you know, whether it's black markets or cartels or like criminal organizations, they seem like they come out of nowhere. Like all of a sudden, you know, they're highlighted or spotlighted, but they just are surfaced, you know, so they become more visible, you know, so.
Absolutely.
And that's why, you know, I like to say money is never neutral, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bad money creates bad incentives. Good money exposes bad behavior, right? And, you know, Venezuela is pretty much showing us what a collapse looks like. And the cartels are showing us, you know, what fills the vacuum when those types of things actually happen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, you know, with Bitcoin, Bitcoin is the first system in history that doesn't require you to trust it or actually trust the people that are running it, right? Mm-hmm. So it's very compelling to see the geopolitical landscape of not just, you know, what's happening, you know, in terms of on the ground, mm-hmm. but also what's happening beneath the surface in terms of where they are and really where, you know, where the trajectory is in all of this in terms of where it's heading. You know, so
I mean, think about this. If they were selling drugs through the logistics arm, through Mexican cartels, right? Through and into the United States and frankly, all over the world. I mean, Venezuela was the hub, not just coming up to the United States, but all over, over to Africa, over to Europe. So anyway, if they were selling that and they were selling it with cryptocurrency, right, to avoid detection. We know that they used stable coins. We know that at some point, some of that was being converted to Bitcoin. So if that was happening, what do you think is going to happen with all these high level cartel people? It's like, what kind of information do you think that they're going to give up? It's going to be, you know, I think we do know it all. I think we have it all. I think we've been tracking it for years. I think that we've let it go on for years, right? Because we know it's accumulating and that it's a weapon, and we didn't have the legal, we hadn't met the legal bar before now, you know, before Trump, we hadn't met the legal bar to attach assets and to be able to seize this if it was. And here's one thing too, like, so if it is found that they have this massive reserve of Bitcoin, even if it's spread out in wallets, I think that we probably already know, and we probably already know where it is, and we probably already know that we have right to custody, because at a nation level, the United States, especially security, we would have seizure rights now under the new alter ego doctrine. But also, if they made it public right now, all those people that are owed money from the Venezuelan oil company, PDVSA, that is now attached to the state, are going to rush to lawsuits all those companies, all those other nation states are going to rush to attach to lawsuits the assets that Venezuela that are attached to Venezuela. I believe that this is strategy. I believe this is part of the Trump administration's strategy. Is we probably already know where it is, and we may even, they're not going to announce it until it's seized.
No.
Right.
Because they're not going to race with everybody else to attach those assets. Right. So this is going to be like, it's going to be a digital war chest.
So when you talk about a digital war chest, you know, we're including the shadow reserve in this discussion. Yes.
Yes.
So let's just spitball here for a second.
Okay.
We know that Senator Cynthia Loomis out of Wyoming is active. First of all, she's definitely pro Bitcoin, right? But she is actively pursuing legislation to actually further Trump's agenda on the strategic Bitcoin reserve, you know, to actually codify that executive order, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the law, or the bill, if you will, that they're trying to, you know, get passed in Congress outlines a framework where we're going to have, you know, about 1 million coins, so to speak, in the reserve, in the Bitcoin reserve, right?
By the end of Trump's term, I believe.
Correct.
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah.
What's interesting is Trump has actually come out and made it very clear that we're not going to be buying any. Right?
Absolutely. Yep.
So this is kind of where Executive Order 13848 comes into play in my book, in my opinion, because when you start talking about that shadow reserve, and you know, ballpark is somewhere in the neighborhood of 600,000 plus Bitcoins, you know, to the tune of $60 billion was the estimate, if you will, right?
Right.
Now, combine that with what we've already accumulated in the DOJ with Silk Road and all that other stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
We almost have 1 million coins, and we didn't buy any, and it costs nothing to the taxpayer.
Yes.
Thoughts on that?
You brought that up the other night when we had a discussion. Sorry, I just knocked my microphone.
Nope, can't hear.
I apologize because I hit my mic and then I hit mute again. So when you and I were talking the other night, you mentioned that, and I was like, I hadn't made that connection. I hadn't made the connection that with what we have now from seizure, forfeiture, from criminal activity, it's a little over 300. It's like between 320 and 350,000.
Right. So we're almost there at 1 million coins without even purchasing.
So if there were 660,000, we would be rated 1 million. And I don't think that there's anything, you know, that's a coincidence in this. Like I said, I think we do have it all. We've been tracking this. I believe they know it. They just needed, and as Tracy Taylor said in her article, they needed stability first. There needs to be stability so that things can hold up in court. There's a structure and a process to all of this. And so again, I also don't think we're announcing it because we don't want every debtor or everybody that Venezuela is indebted to be running to a race for attachment for assets. I think that it's going to be, we're not going to know it until after we have it.
That's right. And I want to touch on this because this is where things start getting real interesting. Just this week, and I had mentioned this to you, and I sent you this article this past week. But just this week, with everything that we're actually talking about here tonight, this stops becoming a theory and actually becomes a major breaking headline, because the United States government, you know, they seized crypto from that Bitfinance hack, tens of millions of dollars, right? And then they actually handed the custody of that crypto to a private contractor called CMDSS. And that's a Virginia-based firm. They're contracted by the U.S. Marshal Service. Their job is to specifically safeguard seized digital assets. So in this case, they probably, are in the loop with this shadow reserve, given the nature of what they do. That's their one job, right? And then that's guard the money. And that contractor's own son, the CEO of that company, his son, allegedly stole $40 million worth of that crypto right out of the DOJ, straight out of the wallets that, they were actually contracted to protect. Not from a hack from the outside. This was done from the inside, right?
So let's sit for a moment, right? The people that the government trusted, the government's own stolen money, allegedly stole it themselves.
They did.
This is where you come in, KC, because you spent decades inside of the global finance, and so you know how custody works, right?
Right.
And you know how trust is supposed to work. So, here's the question. When the government trusts a private company to hold the money, who's actually watching?
Yeah, who's watching them?
Well, that's why we need regulation. That's why we need, a Trump administration that is friendly to cryptocurrency. And he's put a stellar team together to try and answer these types of questions. Because right now that is some of the fear that people still have,
right.
Which is also why I believe personally, like, we should have self-custody, right? Like for everything. Like I don't like to, I don't know, for Bitcoin especially. And it, in hot wallets, if you can, or if you're trading shorter term, in cold wallets, or the stuff that you need movement on sooner, in hot wallets. But we don't have, it's not regulated right now. It's like the Wild West. We are looking at the Wild West. This is going to give the U.S. such an advantage.
Yeah, I believe so too.
If we,
do it right.
When things like this happen, the first thing that comes to my mind is this is a matter of national security.
It is.
Right? To sit there and be a contractor whose only job is to secure the assets, unbeknownst to the CEO, his son is hacking these wallets, right, and stealing it.
Well, and the thing is, he wallets are unhackable without the key. The key.
Well, yeah, I mean,
right. So he did more than that. I mean, this is.
Stole the keys.
He got the keys, obviously.
Exactly.
So what I'm alluding to when I say national security, I'm of the opinion, and Mr. President, if you're listening right now, I'm giving you pearls, sir. I'm giving you pearls. I would hold that wallet right next to the digital, or right next to the nuclear football. I wouldn't trust that wallet outside of your reach, because it's that important as a nation to be able to secure their assets.
Not your keys.
Out of fear of any situation, because KC, you're right. It's not that he just hacked it. He had the keys.
Right.
So how do we secure those keys for our own nation's reserve? Exactly. Unless we treat it the same way we do that nuclear football. It goes in a briefcase with that nuclear football. It is that important in terms of national security. Like I said, it's my opinion. I'm not on Trump's staff. I'm not in his administration. But if he is listening, that's what I would do. I wouldn't let that wallet out of my sight. I wouldn't have a contractor responsible for that. I'd make the president of the United States equally responsible with that nuclear football as he is with that wallet. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, we are looking at a weapon, an economic weapon in this new digital age, you know, we are. It should be protected at a level. I mean, I'm just trying to think through this. Sorry, I'm stuttering. I'm trying to think through how it should be treated like a nuclear football, but you would also need to make sure that there's some kind of multi-signature access, like in case something were to happen.
Like one person has 6 words, another person has 6 words.
Exactly.
And there's like eyeball scanning and finger,
They break up the key, kind of like how they do, the breaking up of the code for the launch codes, right? Same type of thing. Allison in the chat said, "Hey, Digi, what good are Bitcoin in our strategic reserves if we don't have the keys?" That's what I'm saying, Allison. That's exactly my point. We can accumulate all this Bitcoin into our reserve, but if we're not going to secure those keys and we're going to let some, guy's son, just walk off with it, I mean, what are we doing? Because, this right here is not some abstract Wall Street problem here. That's not something that only affects hedge funds or government wallets, because here's the thing that most people probably never think about. If the government can't protect its own seized assets, its own crypto, what does that actually say about being able to protect yours, being able to protect ours, right? I mean, what? Am I right? What do y'all think?
Yeah.
If we can't protect it, as a nation, what does it say about what we have? So, I think it's interesting with what we're seeing here, because, we're starting to understand this a lot better from the perspective of how important all of this really is in terms of the timing of this system in trying to educate people, whether we have a show that focuses on Bitcoin, KC, or you have a show of Ladies of Crypto. There's an evolution taking place of a transition from an old system into a new system. And I think, most people who are actually watching tonight, they think that their money is safe because, the government's watching, right? But, is it? I mean, that's the problem.
Well, everyone thinks that there's a safety net in place. They think someone somewhere is making sure that, something like this can't happen, especially to funds that are seized. But, they can get robbed from on the inside. I mean, just like we're seeing, it's all from within. A lot of the stuff that we've been seeing.
Also think about something. So a million. So we're saying 60 billion.
Right.
They're saying 60 billion for about 600,000, roughly. Right. I mean, I know it's down today, but from what it was a couple of weeks ago. So, so a million, it's not going to pay off our debt as it stands now.
Not right now.
But how many times has Trump said, "Oh, we'll pay off so much of that debt. We'll just give a couple of Bitcoins to China. I know. We're going to pay it off." So what does that tell you about where he thinks Bitcoin is going?
Yeah.
Oh, it tells me everything I need to know, which is why I'm so glad it's on sale right now. So, yeah, it speaks volumes to me, because I think we're going to get to a point where we're actually going to be able to borrow against it. And once we're able to do that, we can actually accelerate that process of paying it off so much more quickly as, a God candle basically unfolds. But going back to that story about this kid, you know what really gets me, and you're gonna love this, KC. This guy, okay, the one that took the Bitcoin from his dad's contracting company that stole it, right? He wasn't caught by the FBI.
Yeah, it was really
right?
silly.
He wasn't caught because they did an audit.
Nobody found out. Nobody was
He
looking.
wasn't caught because some forensic, sophisticated investigation. The dude got caught because he was bragging about it, right? He was, I'm not even joking, right? He literally got into a bragging contest on a Telegram chat about what he pulled off. A guy who thought, he has all of this crypto and he uses it as a flex, right?
Right.
Showing off how he had, millions of dollars in stolen crypto,
Yep.
like almost like thinking nobody's watching. I mean, that's how retarded this clown was, right? Like there was going to be no consequences that were going to catch up with him. So a blockchain sleuth, if you will, some Inspector Clouseau named Zach XBT traced every single wallet, and that's when it became game over. That's why this is so important with Bitcoin, because of the transparency.
Yep.
So you tell me, Casey, is this where it gets really interesting in terms of, is this just some idiot who got sloppy? Or does this bragging, this confidence, this, nobody's watching me, BD energy that he had, obviously, is that actually how people inside these systems really think? Is that what they think?
I don't know if it's how people inside the systems think, but I do think that you see this a lot more nowadays. It's that lifestyle they want to brag about, right? Like they want the glory of it. They want the recognition of it. And it's interesting that you say that, because I was speaking to someone a couple of weeks ago, and they were telling me it's the same with the younger generations of Mexican cartel. These guys weren't around in the 80s, in the 90s, when, like things had to be tough, and they loose lips sink ships. They are all just chatting. But not only that, they're in online gaming, bragging about stuff.
Yes.
Like, I can't tell you, like, I know someone who told me that they've caught a lot of people that way. They've caught a lot of people bragging on social media, bragging in a game chat.
Isn't it? I mean,
so I think it's a generational thing also, maybe. I mean, just it's an indication of the watering down of America that has happened over the last couple of decades.
Intentional watering down.
Yeah.
Exactly. Intentional watering down. I mean, I love our country and I believe that we're going to get back to all of our glory, but it's just a sad reflection of where we are right now.
Yeah, I agree. Well, friends, listen to what just happened in this one story that we just kind of talked about, right? You got the government trusted as a custodian, and the custodian's son stole 40 million, who goes on to Telegram to brag about it, and the blockchain caught him. You see that? Not the FBI, not some audit. The blockchain caught him. It's not a scandal. It's a demonstration, a real world, real time demonstration that just showed the world how Bitcoin actually works, and why trustless systems like this need to exist as we move forward. Because, for those of you following Q, what does Q say? Accountability and transparency are the only way forward, right? We've been taught that. This is a situation where, the system caught up with them. But it was the system of the people that caught up with them, not the government, right? So Ruth, going back to Ruth, she didn't have a blockchain, right? But she understood the same thing instinctively. You don't build your future on someone else's promise. You build it on what actually holds. And that brings us right back to where we started tonight.
Yeah, so let's take a look at the full picture. So we've got Ruth with quiet faithfulness inside stability and rules. Boaz, order that protects without tyranny. Bitcoin, incorruptible rules with no insiders. The Fed, invisible discretionary power. Venezuela, what happens when that power fails. Cartels is what fills when the vacuum is there. And now a live example right here and right now of exactly why trustless systems aren't optional anymore because the system failed.
That's right. It's the same lesson, just different eras. The truth isn't going to shout it out loud. It's not going to campaign, and it's certainly not going to threaten anyone. It just kind of outlasts. And that's why this episode matters in terms of what we're talking about, because after chaos, after all of this craziness is when it's time to rebuild, and you start doing it quietly. So friends, we've laid that foundation tonight where we've talked about all of these things, from Bitcoin to crypto, to gold and silver, the markets, the Fed, the global instability, real world strategy. And KC's here, with us to help, really try to drop, so much insight from her perspective on all of this, that I can't thank you enough, KC, for what you've brought here tonight. And I'm going to go ahead and put a bug in your ear if you'll allow me to, but we're going to have you back on here from time to time to come back and talk about a lot of these things, because your background working in the Senate, your background actually working right under Biden, even though you didn't vote for him, which we're all proud of you for, by the way.
I hope no one I know is listening from back home.
But, the point is you bring something to the table that, quite frankly, I don't think anyone in our audience knew really that much about you. And that's what makes me so excited to have you on, because you're just that quiet voice in the background that really carries a loud megaphone in terms of what needs to be said in all of this. And I really, really thank you for being able to take time out of your evening and come on, Pepe on the Block with us tonight.
Well, I've really enjoyed this. I'm so honored that you asked me. I'd love to come back anytime. And I'm going to be showing up at your shows to learn myself, because I'm still learning with Bitcoin. So I really appreciate the way that you guys have changed the way that I view Bitcoin.
Well, thank you for that. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, and I really hope that, for those out there who are listening, that, they were not only taking notes, but for those that were kind of maybe bouncing in and out, or maybe those that got in late, or maybe those that couldn't be here tonight, I really hope you'll have an opportunity to go back and listen to this, because KC, we've covered so much. And before we wrap up tonight, I want to give you the floor for a few minutes, because we did cover a lot. We covered Ruth, we covered Bitcoin, we covered systems and incentives and in real world with talking. We've talked faith, we've talked finance, family, Bitcoin, all of it. So if you had to boil everything down to what we've learned and everything that we're living, down to a single principle, if you will, what's one thing that people should actually live by, or maybe draw as a takeaway, if you will, from tonight's episode after what we've been through tonight? What would you say?
Well, if I was going to relate it to Ruth, I would say that that loyalty, the consistency, the drive, the redemption. The redemption comes from the gleaning, from the commitment, from the not from being able to do what you have to do today, to work hard today, to be dedicated today, but also to secure that legacy and that future for yourself and your family and for generations. So that happens one day at a time. And in this case, it happens one sat at a time, right? So just start stacking sats.
Gleaning. Well, KC, listen, thank you so much for bringing your wisdom and your clarity and your heart to the table tonight, and your smile. You didn't just add to the conversation; you helped to anchor it. So we're really, really grateful. Now, I know you wanted to talk about next week real quick. In terms of next week and what we've got going on, because we're going to be turning the page again. Right?
Yes, another chapter and another layer. And without giving too much away, let's just say we're going to explore what happens after faithfulness begins to compound.
Yeah, so I mean, next week is going to be about momentum, about counting what actually matters, and about understanding, growth that the world actually wants or chooses to ignore until it becomes too late. So we're going to be opening up questions throughout the week for everybody, and obviously you got to bring your discernment, you got to bring your notebooks in order to get everything that you need out of this program. But friends, before we go, we're not just going to end the night, we're going to actually move together. We're about to raid into Real AF Talk with our good friend Real AF Patriot, who tonight is sitting down for a one-on-one with special guest Mike S., who is the owner of Hunter's Blend Coffee. So if you're still with us, don't log off. We're going to roll over together as a family, and we're going to look to drop some love in his chat because we're all about supporting our friends at Truther Media who are still holding the damn line and staying focused on the signal rather than the noise. So I'm going to drop that raid link in the chat in just a second. But Sky, if you will, I would like to close this out in prayer. So if everybody could go ahead and bow their heads for just a moment. Sky, if you could lead us out in prayer, please.
All right. Father God, we thank you for truth that never bends, and for wisdom, your wisdom, it never rots, it never fades. And thank you for the quiet strength that you give us to endure those days when we're just doing what we can, one step at a time. Bless every household tonight that's watching, Lord God. Guard their minds with understanding, their sleep with sweetness that only you can bring, their hearts with peace, and their steps with courage. Lord, I pray that you would lead each person's steps, Father, right into your presence, Lord, and have them keep their eyes looking up right to you, Father God. For that's where their help comes from, Lord. Help us to continue to build what lasts, Lord God. Help us to carefully steward what you've given to us. And help us to continue to walk faithfully, even when the way forward looks dark and is silent. We love you, Lord. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, so friends, just keep stacking. That's all I can tell you. In order to fix the world, you got to fix the money. So when you fix the money, you do fix the world. Keep stacking those sats. Keep building quietly. Keep trusting what endures. And we'll see you in the raid. KC, thank you again
so much,
for being with us tonight. God bless you, and I can't wait to have you on again in the future. Everyone, have a great
night. You too. Have a great night.
Sometimes in history, there's this magic moment. somebody appears on the scene and everything changes.
I am with you.
We've never seen anything like this.
I will fight for you.
This was a man who's met his destiny.
And I will win for you.
He said he was saved by God in order to make America great again.
His victory was the greatest comeback of all time.
You're watching history, so buckle up.
I don't think the American people have ever seen this before. A government that has moved this quickly and a president that has done so much when it comes to the border and energy and major investments from other countries. It's like warp speed.
47's on a hot streak, bringing head-snapping change to Washington, overwhelming the system with a volcanic eruption of action. Trump has a mandate from the people, and he's using it, and they're just getting started.
President Trump said on the campaign trail, success will be my retribution.
Despite the best efforts of those who would try to censor us, silence us, break us, destroy us, Americans are today a proud, free, sovereign, and independent nation that will always be free. We're going to have one shot at this, and no other president's going to do what I'm doing.
America's back, common sense is back. He is keeping his promise to you, the American people.
Inflation is down, growth is up.
The numbers don't lie. The economy is soaring.
Lowest gas prices in 4 years.
And record tariff revenue.
The USA is on a roll, culminating in the signing of the One Big Beautiful Bill on July 4th.
The Trump economic golden age is full steam ahead.
America is back, thanks to the courage of President Trump, thanks to the leadership of his amazing cabinet, and thanks, of course, to our brave men and women in the United States military.
This is a message to the rest of the world. The days of ripping off America and Americans are officially over.
Between the attacks on Iran's nuke site and the Maduro operation, the U.S. military recruitment at an all-time high.
This president will go down in history as a peacemaking president.
Peace through strength, America's in charge.
And he's just got one filter, and that is America first.
Whatever they're doing, it's working. Zero illegal crossing, drug cartels frustrated, less crime.
We have the most secure border in the history of this nation. If you think we're doing good now, you just wait till this coming year.
The president isn't taking his foot off the gas in 2026.
It's a new year. The stock markets are already making new record highs. The Trump archive are a series of near impossible feats.
As for the next year, the American people have so much to look forward to. The president will continue to build off of his historic accomplishments.
2025 is setting the table. The banquet's going to be in 2026.
This is the golden age coming.
He says, make America great again because every American is invited.
My fellow Americans, get ready for an incredible future because the golden age of America has only just begun. Excuses is over. Now is the time for strength. If you want peace, you must stand strong at all times. The time for empty talk is over. Now arrives the hour of action. Today, you end one chapter, but you are about to begin the greatest adventure of your life. January 20th will be remembered as the day the people became the rulers of this nation again. If the righteous many do not confront the wicked few, then evil will triumph. You came by the tens of millions to become part of a historic movement, the likes of which the world has never seen before. Now we are calling for a great reawakening. When decent people and nations become bystanders to history, the forces of destruction only gather power and strength. This American carnage stops right here and stops right now. Do not underestimate us and do not try us. This would be a fatal miscalculation.
Is not which party controls our government, but whether our government is controlled by the people. There should be no fear. We are protected. We will be protected by God. I know that each of you will be a warrior for the truth, will be a warrior for our country and for your family. I know that each of you will do what is right, not what is the easy way. Our answer will be a rebirth of devotion to defeat the enemies of humanity.
This is a very different administration than the United States has had in the past.
We have an army of digital soldiers. We have an army.
This is warfare.